NBC Sports Radio AM 1060 KDUS Tempe Phoenix and KSLX HD2 Scottsdale Phoenix.
And welcome to Real Hockey Talk, broadcasting today from Frasher Smokehouse, 3222 East Indian School Road here in Phoenix. Come out here, of course, we're on hand. We got some prizes, and we got Ed Cole joining us today, so we're going to have a lot of fun out here. Of course, about hour and a half, 2 hours of hockey talk, and then the Arizona Rattlers, the United Bowl later today. Indoor Football League, their first year there, already getting to the championship.
How exciting is that, Greg? For their first season in the Indoor Football League, they go to the United Bowl, and they have to dethrone the 6-time defending United Bowl champion Sioux Falls Storm in their house.
Oh, man. It's unbelievable.
What could be more difficult, but something that Coach Guy and his team, they relish that. They live for these moments.
Absolutely amazing, yeah, what Coach Guy has been able to do. I mean, of course, in the previous league they were in, we saw all the success, and now switching over and doing some great things. And, you know, there had to be some roster turnover, of course, different brand of football and what he's been able to do. So we'll get into that in the 2 o'clock hour. We're expected to have the commissioner of the IFL on as well. And but, of course, you know, with Real Hockey Talk, we're kind of getting into that slow season a little bit because free agency, there's still some guys out there, but July 1st, July 2nd is when you see most of the big stuff go on. Not a good market to begin with, but still there's some interesting players that were signed. We, last week, July 1st, we were on the air, so most of the big stuff, we were able to talk about then. Of course, during the week, the Coyotes coaching search appears to possibly be coming to an end. TikTok, as we used to call him a long time ago. We might be seeing Rick-Tocchet behind the bench here in Arizona. And so for the Arizona Coyotes, it's a great thing if they could get that wrapped up. And we'll talk more about that. We'll have what we learned this past week. We may have Rick joining us. I think he's in Green Bay right now, so we'll see if we get him on
Rick
the line.
Is here.
Rick is there.
Rick.
Okay, Rick.
Here.
So you're in Green Bay, right?
I am. I'm out here at the Thornberry Creek LPGA golf event, inaugural event out here, and Elena Shop, who's been on the show. My wife and I came out here to spend the week with her. She's out on the course right now at 7 under and tied for 20th in round 3, playing really well. Nice. And I've got to see some of the Lambeau Field. Yes, I went to Lambeau Field and took in some of the sights.
Rick, I've been there one time. That is one of the most amazing stadiums I've ever been to, Lambeau Field, and what the Pats have done to revitalize that place and just the whole setting. I mean, there's houses. It's in the middle of a neighborhood, Greg. You can picture this
really?
Magnificent stadium is in the middle of a beautiful neighborhood, and you just drive up on it, and oh my gosh, there's Lambeau Field. Like if you live across the street from Lambeau Field, you can actually walk to the stadium for a game. It's phenomenal.
Oh, I had no idea with that.
Fantastic.
The whole
you always
town
expect
is green and yellow. I mean, it is amazing. Everything revolves.
They
around
live for the Packers,
which it should. I mean, they right across the street from Lambeau Field, they've got an outdoor practice facility where you can just walk on the sidewalk and watch Aaron Rodgers throw pass patterns, and then they have a nice indoor building too as well for the cold weather that hits up there. But no, very impressive. Great atrium, nice restaurants inside there, and they have the Hall of Fame. And then in the neighborhood, they call it the Walk of Fame, which is about a mile long with different statues. So it's quite a place. They've done a very good job.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, it's one of those places, even though I'm not a big football guy per se, you still want to see it,
of course.
Especially with what you guys have both just
Greg,
said.
it's got to be a bucket list, man. You got to go see it.
Yeah.
Have to get up there
sometime. It's checked off mine. It's definitely one. And right across the street, the Green Bay Thunder of the United States Hockey League play in that building right there, too. So,
all right.
Yeah, nice little hamlet. Nice place.
Well, there we go. Nice little area there in Green Bay. And now, Rick, of course, we'll get kind of right into things. And
sure.
If you're okay with it, I thought we'd lead off with you for what did you learn last week, because Still a somewhat busy week in the NHL. We're going to get to that slow time here, though, coming up right now. But what are your thoughts on this past week?
You see the wave going. As you said, the first couple of days of July, a lot of the high signings, and then it kind of drifted down a little bit. Now some of the RFAs are getting signed, and then we'll see a little bit more, between now and the 15th as teams look at their roster and find out what they want to do. But a couple of things that what did I learn on the humorous side of thing is, as I said, I'm up here in Green Bay. I think the cheese curd is overrated. Now, for all our Wisconsin listeners out there, don't attack me. I just don't get it. So the cheese curd is, in my estimation, it didn't make it. But I'm open to be swayed. But right now, the cheese curd is not what I think what it's made out to be. You guys have to go to the ESPN Body Issue magazine. What did I learn? It's not just going in there and looking at Brett Burns and Joe Thornton. It's not that. You got to look at the U.S. women's hockey team. It is worth the price of the magazine. I'll leave it at that. So what did I learn? I got to go out and get that. It's a fantastic overview of the team. So check that out. And then on the hockey side, I gotta say something hockey. I don't know what Dallas Stars did 6 years for the money they gave Radulov. I know Montreal offered them the same amount of money, but with the Quebec tax laws and whatever. I personally would not have given Radulov, in his history, coming off one good year, tying him up for 6 years. It kind of goes against everything that Dallas was doing from the net out with Bishop and Mark Mathot, and then Radulov. I mean, the one thing Dallas didn't have to worry about is what? Scoring goals. It was keeping it out. So, what did I learn? I think Dallas is not going to make the run that I thought they would. I just would not have hired that guy, so I wouldn't have brought him on for 6 years.
I mean, I admit it. Yeah, that is a lot, and you got to do some stuff that maybe you're not comfortable with to improve the team, and that's where free agency could sometimes help you short term and then kill you in the long term. But think of that potential first line with Radulov, Ben, and Sagan, and they have some depth behind them. So it just depends on how they fit into Hitchcock's system. Is this the Hitchcock that, when Madonna was on the team, he taught them how to play a good two-way game, but they were still creative? Or is this going to be where a lot of creativity is taken away from these guys and they have some issues there? And it would be an interesting question. And if it's the first one, then I think it could work out great. If it's the second one, then yes, you could have some issues. But at least no matter what, I mean, they have got the better goaltending now and have made some improvements on the back end, like you said, with Mathot. And so Dallas is an interesting team. To me, they could either jump way up and be back to cup contender status, or if Hitchcock kind of does what he did maybe towards the end of his St. Louis career there, I mean, who knows? Maybe they could have some issues. The team could implode. Yeah. So it'll be something. We'll see what happens there with that. And so, yeah, is that what you learned this week about Radulov?
Yeah, that's what I learned. I was just shaking my head at that signing, and I said, I think Jim Nill and Dallas have learned nothing about putting a team together. That's my hockey thing, and on the sidebar, I had to get my cheese curd shot in there and tell our listeners out there to take a look at the U.S. women's hockey team. Pretty impressive.
Yeah, I had a little sneak peek of that. It is very good.
Very impressive.
Seen it.
Yeah, it's outstanding.
Yeah, it's an order, actually. You have to see it. Yeah. No, that's interesting. One thing about the cheese curd thing, the show How I Met Your Mother, I don't know if you guys ever watched that, where Marshall, one of the main characters, Jason Segel, is a huge Minnesota Viking fan. And he's in Green Bay. And basically, so he doesn't get beat up or anything, he has to wear Packer stuff. And as soon as he takes it off for a second, they're in like a gift shop thing there. A bunch of people in there. Everyone has Green Bay Packer stuff on. The music stops, and like everyone freezes and looks at him like they're going to attack him. But then he puts it back on.
And then everything goes back to normal? Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Is that how it really is up there?
Yes.
Pretty close.
Yep.
Wow. Wow.
Anything involving the Vikings and the Bears, that's Green Bay hatred.
Yeah, I mean, the golf course here is the official golf course of the Green Bay Packers. It's on the Oneida Nation reservation. They own the property here and everything. And the first fairway that the girls hit from an elevated tee down, there's the big Green Bay Packers logo right to the right of the fairway. I mean, everything in this area is 100% Green Bay Packers. It's part of the community and part of the. I mean, for a town of 100,000 people, 104,000 people, and then you get the surrounding towns. It's all green and yellow. That's what it is.
Oh man, that's amazing. Now, before we go on to the next, what we learned this week, Ed, do you want to go next, or do you want me to?
Well, what I've learned is what we've already known: how good Connor McDavid is,
he's all right,
and now how he's getting compensated for being that good.
Mm-hmm.
This young man signed an 8-year, $100 million contract. So that makes him clearly the highest paid player in hockey, right?
Oh,
if I'm not mistaken. Yeah,
$12.5
million a year.
Mm-hmm.
And you and I were talking in the pre-show meeting, Rick. We were talking about how there's an article on NHL.com about how McDavid, how good he can be if he stays his whole 8 years in Edmonton through 25, 26, how he can get 1,000 points. And they broke it down year by year, how good this young man can be. If he can stay healthy and if the cards all fall right for him, how good this young man can be. But, my gosh, 100 points last season. I mean, the sky's the limit for this guy, and now he's getting paid properly for his efforts.
He is, and I agree with you. One thing that actually made put a little bit more of a smile on my face is I'm looking at the whole Edmonton team and how they're gonna manage the cap, and you got Leon Draisaitl, and you don't want to destroy the team by giving too much to one guy. The original number was $13.5 million. So when it was finally announced, it was $12.5. That $1 million a season means a lot to that team, because Leon Draisaitl is next on board, and you got to look at this 21-year-old kid. He scored, he's just shy of 30 goals this year and 77 points. He's next. So you're gonna end up tying up 22 to 25% of your salary in two guys. And you're seeing now, if they get 2 or 3 cups out of that, that's all good. And that's what the Blackhawks did with Kane and Taves. Now you see the Kane and Taves, and they got the host of salary or whatever. They're struggling. They're struggling to put pieces around to make it work. So it's a challenge that Peter Chiarelli is going to have with that Edmonton team by keeping, what are you going to pay Draisaitl? You got to pay him more than $7.5, $8 million. He's got to be in that 9 range. So now you're going to have $21.5 between two guys. That's a lot with the cap being $78 million. But it's interesting. I agree. He's a generational talent. He's got the best burst on the skates since Bobby Orr. The sky's the limit. No quite serious injuries, and we're going to be talking about Connor McDavid for a long, long time.
Oh, absolutely.
No question.
Yeah, and the contract, this year doesn't take place yet, but next year when it does, but Draisaitl's would take place this year as he's an RFA, and he'll get at least $9 million most likely. But for the Oilers, hopefully the cap starts going up a bit. But for right now, the short term, they'll be okay. Real quick, because we're getting to a break soon, what I learned is that Washington Capitol GM Brian McClellan may be the worst GM in the league now. He's possibly taken over from Jim Benning of the Vancouver Canucks. And after the break, I'll talk a little bit more about that, the Marcus Johansson trade, and, the Capitals just, as of now, there's time, things could change, but they still have cap issues. And they're definitely a worse team than they were last year. And
they're a mess. They're a mess. They are.
Unfortunate.
And that's a shame because that team has been so close to a Stanley Cup for years and years, and now they're taking a step back.
Absolutely. And take a break right now. We're broadcasting from Frasher Smokehouse, 3222 East Indian School Road here in Phoenix. This is Real Hockey Talk on NBC Sports Radio AM 1060. We'll be right back.
Sports Circus with your host, Sal. Features sports topics and dedication to a student athlete every week. Tune in Tuesday nights from 8 to 9, all on NBC Sports Radio, AM 1060.
And welcome back to Real Hockey Talk, broadcasting today at Frasher Smokehouse, 3222 East Indian School Road. Some of the best barbecue you could have here in Phoenix. It is amazing. Greg alongside Ed Cole. And, of course, we do have some prizes on hand, some fidget spinners, things like that, and also a Diamondbacks 4-pack of tickets. You do have to be here to win, though. So what you could do is come out here, 3222 East Indian School Road, and you'll have an opportunity to win. We'll look at giving away some prizes here throughout the show, so you got to get here quick, but drive safe. And, feel free, any hockey fans out there that want to call in, talk about the Coyotes. We with Rick-Tocchet probably coming aboard soon, and we'll talk more about that between myself, Ed, and Rick here in a little bit. Not Rick-Tocchet, but Rick in Green Bay. We'll have some fun with that. And so all that. And then on Twitter as well, if you have some questions, you could tweet at us. We're at real_hockey talk. So you could, get in touch with us that way as well if you want to talk. Not just about the Coyotes. If, you're a fan of any other team, you could do that. But if you call in 602-260-1060, 602-260-1060, and we'll get talking about all that good stuff. But I just wanted to bring up, and we'll get into the New Jersey Devils as well, because they tie into this. But with Washington and the GM, Brian McClellan, and, I'm going to be harsh on him. I just think it's terrible. I mean, here you have this team that's dominated regular season. They've never been able to take it to that next level in the playoffs for many years, even before, he was GM. So I'm not blaming him necessarily per se for that, because I do think they've done some nice things beforehand, but
their problem is they ran into a buzzsaw every single year in the one Penguins. Team, the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Exactly, and
they could never get past them.
Exactly, and now their depth is hurt quite a bit. They had because of cap issues, and there could have been other ways around this, but they had to trade Marcus Johansson, who is just getting into the prime of his career. I believe he had 24 goals last season. Mm-hmm. And he's going to help New Jersey a lot. Now they get a second and third round pick back. Yeah, decent assets, but for a team that's a contender right now, you just gave TJ Oshie this ridiculous 8-year contract. It's like, here you go. Rick, your thoughts?
That was the first domino to fall, the Oshie contract.
Mm-hmm. It was, absolutely.
And I have a kind of a personal interest in there because one of the UFAs that's out there, and we're not talking about the top six, winger. But, Dan Winnick was part of that Washington Capitals team, and here's a guy that was playing hockey in good quality minutes, his best statistical year he ever had. And here's a guy who's been paid $2 million, a year. That's not a lot in today's hockey standards, and there's not even enough in the Washington budget to bring a guy like him back, a core guy, and you overpaid for the others. Those things bother me, so that hits a personal nerve there.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And, Justin Williams moves on, going back to Carolina, which is, we talked about last week, obviously great for Carolina.
Great.
And, he got a pay raise over his last contract. So, yeah, it would have been tough for them anyways. But, yeah, I mean, they just have invested so much now where, on the back end, we talked about how they lost Nate Schmidt, and they were doing their best not to lose, and they were offering their former GM, George McPhee, some pretty decent offers to not select him in the expansion draft, and that didn't work. And, Shattenkirk, we knew they would lose him. We knew he was a rental, and that may not be the worst thing, obviously.
No.
But just in general, Carl Alsner, maybe he's lost a step, but still, he was a guy back there. So Brooks Orpik is getting older, and he's,
and they're
not
stuck
that
with
good
his
anymore.
Contract. But
I'm surprised
they overpaid for the guy. He's slow right now.
Oh yeah, and so it's going to be interesting. I mean, again, they still have that core when you have Ovechkin and Kuznetsov and Backstrom and company. There's still pieces to like. Braden Holtby and net, John Carlson, on the back end. But on the other hand, you kind of look and say, and Rick, you've mentioned this a lot. What type of shape will OV be in next year?
Because exactly. I've used the comment before. There are teams that are built for games 1 through 82, and then there are teams that are built through games 82 and beyond. Clearly, when April comes around, the pucker factor on Washington is incredible, and they tried to bring in a Justin Williams to try to overcome some of that. But you can just see it on the body language of that team. It starts with Barry Trotz there, whoever the coach is. They get tight, and like in baseball, okay, when good pitching can shut down good hitting in the World Series, in a 7-game series. The same reason you can shut down in 7 games back to back to back to back, you can shut down Ovechkin, and he has to have the leadership to overcome that, and he never has. And sometimes you have to. Is that part of the problem? I don't know. I'm not in that locker room.
Oh, I'm sorry. And Rick, when you go year after year, you go as far as you can in the playoffs, and then you see the team with Sidney Crosby on it. You see the team from up north in Pennsylvania. You see the Pittsburgh Penguins. You know you're going to run into them at least in the second round, if not the Eastern Conference Finals. And you know from a mental standpoint, you cannot beat this team. You lose year after year in the playoffs to this team. What does it do from a mental standpoint for a guy like Ovechkin and everybody in that organization, knowing that that team that just won another Stanley Cup is always there and looming, and you cannot beat them in the playoffs? You cannot overcome that beast.
Right. It is brutal. I mean, what it does to that, getting back to Green Bay, you need a Vince Lombardi type coach in the locker room to overcome that when you get into a situation like that. So it's the core players, but to be honest too, there are some players you can pay them millions and millions and millions, and that's all they care about. They still may be great people, they may be great locker room, but they're not the passion of winning. It's not, I'll do everything I can to win this game. You see that from Sidney Crosby. You saw that from Malkin, who had a tremendous postseason. And, without going off the deep end here, a lot of the Eastern European players aren't necessarily the best team leaders when it counts. Malkin might be an exception. I don't think Ovechkin is, but that's me personally. I think the team has to make significant changes. They're stuck with Ovechkin right now. They're stuck with Orpik. I don't even know if the Capitals, there's no way they're going to lead the conference in points next year. Teams like Islanders, Philly, Carolina are all going to challenge those guys. And if I was going to pick a team that might not make the playoffs next year, I'd throw $100 on the Capitals.
I think it's very possible because, with that and, it's just, let's see if there comes any turmoil or locker room stuff possibly going on there, with some changes and things like that. Obviously, probably some of the guys are pretty upset knowing that, hey, the team has taken a hit and, the morale, as you guys said, not being able to get past their arch rival there the last couple seasons. So definitely a team to watch rest of the offseason and then the start of the year because, if they have that tough start, first 15, 20 games, I mean, maybe Barry Trotz would be on the outs. Not blaming him per se. I think he is.
Yeah, I agree.
Unfortunate, great coach, but nothing he could really do right now.
But, boys, at the end of the day, it's all about wins and losses and about Stanley Cup championships.
That's right.
Oh, absolutely.
And as long as the Pittsburgh Penguins are in your conference, you're always going to have an uphill battle to try to dethrone the Stanley Cup champions, and to this point they haven't.
My roots are in New England, and I'm a Boston guy. I compare the Pittsburgh Penguins as an organization and what they put out on the ice as the New England Patriots are as an organization and what they put out on the field. From top to bottom, they are a professional organization with leadership at they have a system, they have a plan, they have a functionality, and they execute on it. And you see, switching gears here, you look at Pittsburgh right now, we're talking about Rick-Tocchet. He's been that assistant coach on that team for the last 2 years. The same things that happen to the Penguins that have always happened to the Patriots over the year. There's poaching that goes on of coaching staff, and Jason Botterill is now the GM up at Buffalo. He was a Penguins guy. Now you see if Tocchet goes, and interesting, Rick Tocchet was the glue on that team. that kept Phil Kessel grounded between Mike Sullivan and Phil Kessel being Phil Kessel. So, that is going to be interesting to watch too. Who replaces Rick Tocchet? I mean, he's definitely the players' coach.
And Rick, as you say,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I keep interrupting you.
No, you're fine.
I'm just so excited about this real hockey talk. I'm just jumping all over you guys. I apologize.
That's what we want.
But Rick, you talk about the system. You know, if they lose Rick Tocchet and he comes to the Arizona Coyotes, all they do, they'll just elevate somebody within the organization, somebody that's just as competent, if not more competent than Rick Tocchet. It's just the way they run the organization. It's stellar. It's outstanding. It's championship quality, clearly, because they win the Stanley Cup. They've won multiple championships, so they have nothing to worry about if they lose Tocchet to the Coyotes.
Yeah, and Mike Sullivan, obviously, his resume has exponentially taken off with winning the 2 cups. There's other people. I heard Joe Mullen's name has been kicked around as a guy that could go in there, a players type guy. But you're right, that organization is layered from Scranton, Wilkes-Barre on up. You saw it on the ice. You saw it with all these players. Where did Matt Murray come from? Gensel, Rust, Sherry. It's unbelievable. None of us can say that about the feeder system of the Washington Capitals.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. Yeah, it's just amazing, and that's the key. I mean, is with your system throughout the whole organization, all those little things, and what Pittsburgh's been able to do, and you know. And one last thing with Washington, I mean, if young guys like Barafkowski, they can keep getting better, I mean, that's something that could help. But I agree with you guys, and Rick, as you said, maybe it's early talking about this, but there's so many teams improving there in the East and all the parity that, it's possible. I mean, we definitely should see the dominance of the regular season then for Washington, but we'll see how far back maybe they go and how far up some of these other teams, especially in the Metropolitan Division, but the East in general, continue to grow. And with Rick Tocchet, as you said, he had some experience as a head coach with Tampa. They struggled. But the thing is, he learned, and like you guys said, what he's been able to do with the Penguins, and even learn more from Mike Sullivan there, and just how a winning organization really is. I mean, and he's been a part of it as a player, obviously, with success. But, I mean, he, once this is a done deal, hopefully here soon, I mean, what he's going to do, and he hard-nosed guy, so he'll hold these young guys responsible. But I think he'll do it in a way where they'll be able to open up and provide some creativity.
And the great thing, guys, is success is infectious. Yeah, if he comes to the Coyotes, he brings that championship caliber. He brings a championship swagger to this team, something that this team desperately needs and something that organization needs dearly. Something these fans would jump behind in a second.
Absolutely. They've done a lot of that this offseason with getting Nicholas Hjalmarsson. He's won his 3 cups with the Hawks. Ante Ranta's been a part of a cup-winning Hawks team and also some successful Ranger teams. And just in general, I mean, they've Derek Stepan, he hasn't won a cup, but he's been there with the Rangers close, and a lot of playoff success in that regard. And Brad Richardson was injured, of course, last year, but he's a guy that's won a cup before with L.A., and so he kind of knows what it takes. So they've done a good job now of doing that, bringing in some of these guys that do know what it takes, and it's going to rub off on the young guys and even some of the other veterans that haven't really had that opportunity. But, man, Rick Tocchet would be, Rick, are you surprised at all that it ended up, probably being Tocchet, not official, but it sounds like that's where it's heading? Or did you think that it was going to head to maybe a guy like Nelson?
Yeah, that's who I was thinking of, or Dallas Eakins. I've always been a favorite of them with the youngsters on the team, to getting someone maybe one of these solid junior A coaches that are out there making ready to make that next step. But it is a good old boy club in the NHL amongst coaches. Even though Rick Tocchet was only a short-time head coach for Tampa, he is part of that coaches fraternity within the NHL, and a lot of these guys do get recycled, but looking for the opportunity. I didn't even think of Rick Tocchet when the names were being bandied about, a couple of weeks ago. I look at it now and said, okay, they're making the right move. I have no problem if Rick-Tocchet takes over behind the bench of the Coyotes. I think it'll be a positive. Getting back to Washington for one last shot at the Capitals.
Yeah.
The money that's been thrown at Kuvetsanov and Burakovsky, who do those guys look up to on that team? Number 8.
Yeah.
If they see number 8 gliding through center ice, making his money, those guys are going to follow. And that's the only thing that worries me about that team. There's a certain type of I don't want to label all these Eastern European players. Remember, they are raised under different circumstances than we are here in the West. They've been denied a lot of things. Now, it's not like it was back in the 70s and 80s, but still they've been denied a lot of things. Income to those guys is beyond huge. And once they get it, sometimes winning can become secondary. I hate to broad brush it, but that's the concern that you do have.
So, Rick, when you look at the Capitals, where is this window? Is it pretty much shut? When you look at the Metropolitan, you've got the Stanley Cup champs in there. You've got rapidly improving Columbus Blue Jackets team. You've got a Rangers team that's very good, an Islanders team that's coming up. Like I said, Philly's going to get better. Carolina, New Jersey, right. They got Johansson. They got a couple other pieces. They're going to get better. All of these teams are going to get better. So, I mean, where is this? Where is this? Have the Capitals peaked? Are they falling off? Where do you see them next season? You don't see them scoring 118 points again, right?
This team is they're not even in like the Buffalo Bills being bridesmaids 4 times. They haven't even got to that level, because to get to that level, you would have had to have gone to the Cup 4 times and been runner-up. They haven't even reached that peak yet. They can't get past the wild card game, if you know what I mean. I'm trying to attach an analogy to football on this. They don't know how to win. I think the window on that team is shut. It was closed. Their last chances were the last 3 years, and they didn't get it done.
Yeah, I agree. It's just a tough situation there. I mean, they've never won a cup, and they've been close a couple times. And you remember that series, late '90s? I mean, they got swept, I believe, by the Red Wings.
The Red Wings,
Cup
yep.
final that year. But
was that '98?
I think it may have been. Yeah,
was it '98?
Yeah, Ole the goalie was there, and
yep.
A good defensive team, but then we've seen all this excitement, since Ovechkin was drafted, and once they got really good again and dominant, and unfortunate, obviously, for their fans that they just can't get to that extra level, and for the team. I mean, obviously, the players, for the most part, work for it, but so tough stuff there, and they helped New Jersey out a lot, getting Johansson, and, man, New Jersey, and today made a little change. Rolly the goalie, Rolly Melanson, is their new goaltending coach to try to help Corey Schneider out, because he had some issues last year. And so, but New Jersey, I mean, with Nico probably making the team, of course, first overall pick, and you have, with Johansson now coming over, you got some depth now there, and the guys offensively, if they could add another defenseman here, which is possible, because now they have some depth, maybe they can move, maybe an Adam Henrique or something like that. All of a sudden, New Jersey, maybe not a playoff team yet, but now, there's no easy games. And now with them getting better and Pavel Zacha keeps getting better, they're a team that's going to be real competitive on most nights.
Yeah, because one of the main issues with them was they couldn't score goals. They were like 28th in the league in goal scoring. Yeah. So that's what Johansson's going to help with. Like you said, he had 24 goals for Washington last season. So if he can come to New Jersey and get that kind of output next season, if not more, they'd be giddy for that.
Oh, yeah, and adding a guy like Brian Boyle into your bottom 6, will help from a defensive standpoint and
make a good
physical ability.
They'll be tough.
Interesting.
Like you said, there's so much parity in the league right now, and you look at the teams. We're talking about all these teams that improve themselves in the East, and the team that hasn't improved themselves at all in any way, shape, or form has been the Capitals. Everyone else has done something to get better to take to the next level, and they have not. Even the Chicago Blackhawks, with the issues they have had to kind of juggle things around. I mean, different questions, different concerns, but they're doing what it takes to get back there. Washington, I'm glad I'm not a season ticket holder right now.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. When you get that close, I mean, you're ready for it. So very tough there with Washington. And, the East, I mean, for so long the East was sort of that conference that struggled. You had Washington, but not much else. But now with that parity really taking place there now. And then when you look at the West, we've always had that parity, and now we've seen Calgary even get better. I know there's been some rumblings, too, that the great-grandpa, Mr. Yager, maybe Calgary could be his destination if he's willing to come west. Now, the furthest west he's ever played is Dallas in terms of on a team. But if he's willing to, I've heard some rumblings. I'm not sure about their cap situation, but man, if you bring in a guy like that, he could still play even at age 93. So
they need scoring. That's the one thing Calgary's missing. But they got some. Johnny Gaudreau last year had an off year for a second year. Matthew Tkachuk's only going to get better. I don't know if I'd bring in a guy like Yager. Yeah, he's been around, and everybody's in love with his numbers. But he has in the past. I know he doesn't do it anymore. But he's the type of player, too, that could throw his weight around and pick the coach and then get his linemen around and say, well, we're going to do this anyways. I don't know if that's the right guy to bring in there. I would go in. I wouldn't go in that direction if I was them. And you see the three guys hanging, Doan, Yager, Iginla. They may. I wouldn't be surprised if all two of those three aren't in uniforms next year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's as long as Doan wants to come back and play, I think someone will take that chance on a short-term thing.
Absolutely.
Obviously, 1 year, not a lot of money, maybe some bonuses. And I think he'll actually have a much better year with wherever he would go than last year. I think he still has more to offer. Ginla, we saw when he went to L.A., was at over a 20-goal pace. You could just tell that hunger kind of came back. Yeah, the team struggled and kind of sucked around him afterwards. Right. But when he first got there, they were in the playoff picture. And then with Yager, I mean, there was nights he could still show some dominance. I mean, 16 goals, but I think over 50 points or around there. But, he could still set up his line mates, control the puck, hold on to it. And so, I mean, you would think that definitely someone would want these guys, and I bet there's still some offers out there for them, and they're just kind of deciding what they want to do, in the grand scheme of things. There could be those teams out west that do want Yager, but does he say, wow, I only want to play on the East? Or there's probably a lot going on behind the scenes. But as long as Doan wants to come back, I think all three guys we'll see next year.
Oh, yeah.
With some teams out there. And it'd be interesting to kind of see, what contenders look into bringing them in. And because, I think they could all have a purpose with really helping teams still, which is amazing, really, with all the mileage all these guys have gone through.
But go ahead, Rick.
No, I'm trying to, I've tried to look at the two landing spots that I can see for Shane Doan right now that would have the most impact for the team, in not just on the ice and in the locker room, but in the stands and the fans. I could see Shane Doan in a Las Vegas uniform. He's in the desert. That would be a shot across the bow at Arizona, especially in the amount of time they play each other. It would put people in the seats, which that isn't going to be an issue anyways. And I could also see Shane Doan maybe going back to Winnipeg for 1 year, because that team's lacking something. It's got talent, it's got good scoring, but it lacks some leadership. I could envision him going back there, and that's from that part of the world. I could see that. I can't really see him anywhere else. I said maybe Vancouver. No, that's not the direction they're going in. I've narrowed it down to those two teams, but that's me. That means absolutely nothing. So.
And of course, wherever he goes, he wants to go to a team that's at least in contention,
right?
At least in playoff contention. He doesn't want to go to a team that he knows, we're not going to make the playoffs this year. So why am I giving all this effort if I know we're not a playoff team? We're not going to make a run for a Stanley Cup title.
Yeah, if he's willing to go out east, even though he's not the greatest skater, and this is a fast team, obviously, with the Pittsburgh Penguins, I can see them maybe being a possibility if they want him. But if out west, maybe go back to Alberta, where he's from. I don't know if Edmonton, though, would really be a fit now because the way they've rounded out their roster, I don't know. I mean, he would provide leadership. Maybe Calgary, possibly. But, I could see Calgary ending up with one of those three. I still think with Jágr, the offensive ability, if he's willing to go west, maybe they bring Iginla back for that last hurrah,
sentimental.
It'll be interesting to see. But, we're going to break right now. Rick, good to talk to you this week. And will you be back here next week?
I will. I get back into town on Monday, and we'll be back live on the set on next Saturday, the 15th, and looking forward to it.
Awesome.
Rick, give those cheese curds another chance, please.
All right.
They're outstanding.
I'll let you know. All right.
Maybe you got it from the wrong place.
Thanks, Rick. You too. Have a safe rest of the trip.
Thanks, Rick.
Have a good time out there in Green Bay. And, of course, this is Real Hockey Talk broadcasting from Frasher Smokehouse, 3222 East Indian School Road, right here on NBC Sports Radio AM 1060. We'll be right back.
NBC Sports Radio AM 1060 KDUS Tempe Phoenix and KSLX HD2 Scottsdale Phoenix.
And welcome back to Real Hockey Talk right here on NBC Sports Radio AM 1060. Broadcasting on location today at Frasher Smokehouse, 3222 East Indian School Road. Come out here, we'll be here till 3, but then afterwards, of course, Arizona Rattlers watch party, the United Bowl. And so that's going to be a lot of fun. Starts right when we get off the air. So if you're a Rattler fan, or even if not, great barbecue here. It'll be a great atmosphere.
And to extend our coverage, Dave is actually in South Dakota.
He is.
Covering the game. So he'll be calling in at 2 o'clock, and we're hoping to have the IFL Commissioner, Michael Allshouse, with us.
Yeah.
That'll be pretty awesome. He can preview this big game between Arizona and Sioux Falls.
That would be
It's going to be outstanding.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun, looking into that. But, right now we'll talk a bit about the St. Louis Blues because, they're a team that has had success in the regular season, as we've seen, and seems like in the playoffs, for a while there, they would run into L.A., and then it's just this year, obviously, Nashville was unbelievable. But we have joining us now, Andrew. Now, you run some type of blues group out here in Arizona?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
First of all, thank you for having me on the show. It's great. So I run a blues group here. It's called St. Louis Blues Fans of Arizona. I started on meetup.com about a year and a half ago.
Nice.
And really, I just wanted to meet people who are blues fans here with me so I could, watch games with them. And I was always, texting my friends back to St. Louis, and I was like, it'd be nice to have someone to talk with,
Yeah.
So, but now we're on Facebook, too. St. Louis Blues Fans of Arizona on Facebook. So,
nice.
If you're a blues fan listening, join on Facebook.
Is there a pretty big blues base that now kind of relocated out to Arizona? Or
yeah, I mean, I think
kind of
with a lot of teams out here in Arizona, or a lot of big teams, you're going to have, especially like Chicago and all the Canadian teams. But yeah, there's definitely a big blues following out here. If you just go to the Coyotes games when the Blues are here, there's blues fans everywhere. That was my big thing. When I first got here, I was like, oh, my gosh, look at all these Blues fans here. It's I got to get a group going, so that was my motivation.
Oh, absolutely. No, that's awesome that happens. And we see that, now, as you said, with St. Louis, obviously with Chicago and some of the other places. Well, Detroit, you have them everywhere, but who knows about nowadays. But a lot of people from the Midwest, moving out here to Arizona. And so you see a lot of that. So that's great. And I love your jersey, Al McGinnis.
That's right. favorite player ever.
That is a solid jersey.
Scariest slap shot ever.
Yes.
I know.
I would never be a goalie, even if I somehow had the ability to. I would just get out of the net and say, you can have it. Good for you.
I remember when he had a slap shot and he broke the boards. Not the glass, the boards. With ridiculous. And that was back in the day when the sticks don't have as much pop as they do now,
Isn't that crazy?
With a wood stick, 102 miles an hour.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, just think if he's using one of these flexes right now. He would be,
hit it 200 miles an hour.
yeah. Oh, man, that would be crazy. But so how long have you been out here?
I've been out here for about 3.5 years.
Oh, okay.
So,
all right. So what brought you out to the Phoenix area?
Well, I was in the Navy, and I did nuclear power in the Navy, and there's a big nuclear power plant out here.
Right.
And so I came out here to work.
Nice.
And I don't really like the cold, so it works out pretty well for me. Even though I love hockey, it's weird.
Oh, yeah. No, I hear you. I mean, but, in this heat, I give you a lot of props because having that jersey on, it's not necessarily the coolest thing to wear when it's 118 outside, but you're handling it well.
That's true.
I mean, I would be pumped over sleeping if I – but, yeah, no. Now, the Blues with the offseason, well, obviously during the season they had their struggles until they finally, with Ken Hitchcock parted ways.
Thank God that happened.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
they had to.
He wear out the welcome, kind of. Yeah. He was a great coach, been there a long time, but it just happens. And Mike Yeo taking over, he was going to take over this coming year, but it happened earlier. Obviously, the team changed big time, and so you have that. Now, with the offseason, kind of the big move was the Braden Shen trade.
Right.
And what are your thoughts on that? You get rid of Laterra's contract, which is probably a good thing, and bring in a guy that could score 25, 30 goals. I mean, is that sort of that missing piece?
I think it was huge. I don't know if it's the missing piece, but I think they, there's lots of talk before the expansion draft. Oh, we're going to do something to get rid of Yuri Laterra. He's just been not great for us. He had a great rookie season, and him and Vladimir Tarasenko were fantastic together, and it was a great pairing. But then, after that, just didn't do a whole lot, and we were paying him a lot of money. So how are we going to get rid of him? And I think, everyone was pretty surprised whenever we didn't get rid of him in the expansion draft, and then in the regular draft coming up, this crazy trade comes out. Braden Shen, no one even thought about it. It was crazy. Everyone's like. Doug Armstrong, a lot of the fan base gets on him a lot, but I think he did a great job. I'm not sure if it's that one missing piece, but I think it's definitely a huge upgrade.
Oh, yeah.
And so I know the fan base is very happy about it. I mean, we gave up a lot, 2 first-round picks, but I think it's going to be great. We get a young guy who can play center, scored, like you said, 25 goals, 50-something points last year. His plus-minus wasn't very good, but that's not a very good stat, So I think, it's going to be a huge upgrade. And I think just what the team showed last year after Yo, I mean, they were fantastic. So I want to see that more and coming back. And with upgraded pieces, you got Robbie Fabry coming back, too. I'm excited. I know the rest of the Blues fans are too.
And these are the kind of moves you have to make when you're in a conference with Chicago, Minnesota, Nashville, which made it to the Stanley Cup Finals.
Oh yeah,
and 8 seed making it to the Stanley Cup Finals. You've got so many other great teams in this conference. Sometimes all the moves you make aren't popular among the fan base, but if they turn out to be the right moves, they will be popular. Yeah, if these guys come in and play well, right?
Speaking of moves that probably weren't very popular, the Ryan Reeves trade.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you look at it on paper, Ryan Reeves, not that important. He scored, 5 goals this year or something like that, some minuscule. But I think he was very important as far as in the locker room and the fan base. Everybody loves him, and to see him go was tough. But we get that 31st pick and that guy Klimkost, and they were talking about him, and they had the prospect camp this past week or so, and everyone was just raving about him. He didn't even scrimmage. He just because he had a shoulder surgery earlier this year, and they still said amazing. So I think I don't want to get too high because I don't want my expectations to be super high. As a Blues fan, they've been there before, but
you got one of the big steals of the first round, I think.
For sure.
The thing with him is that, you can look at mock drafts, things like that, and he's one of those guys that's went across the board where some had him maybe 12 to 15 range, others late in the first round. But there was no denying that skill set. I think there's just some unfamiliarity. I'm not sure what it was, but
the Russian factor.
I think that's the thing, and that happens. But I think he's motivated to be over here, and that's going to be huge. And I think we'll look 2-3 years down the line and say, man, St. Louis made out with that. But I agree with Reeves. I mean, that leadership. But to get, a first-round pick, and I know I think the Blues gave up a second as well.
Yeah, they moved up about 20 picks.
Which still, I mean, it's amazing in that regard. Good value that they got. Right. And I see why the Penguins did it per se, because they see their guys kind of getting pushed around, even though they did win 2 cups. But, I guess they felt it was worth it there. So it's a move I understand from both sides, I think. But, yeah, I think that's going to be great. And like you said with Robbie Fabry, another young guy that probably will just continue to get better. And then let's see, Colton Perriaco, you have on the back end, obviously he's been amazing his first couple of years, and he'll probably only get better. But he needs a new contract, I believe, right now, RFA. How do you see that kind of working out? Do you think that gets done soon? Or?
Yeah, I was a little surprised that he filed for arbitration. I thought they were working on something long term, but it's something to protect him. He wants to get in a good contract. So, from what I was reading recently, it looks like they're still going to get something done before arbitration comes around. But if it doesn't, then he'll get a bridge contract, and that may be even best for him because, especially for him because. He's a good player now, but if you look at, the metrics and the people who are similar to him, he's in, the $4.5, $5 million range. He's probably looking more of, the $6, $7 million range where he wants later. So, and he wants a long-term contract, I'm sure, just like everyone does. Yeah. So, we'll see how it plays out, but I think they'll get something done before arbitration comes around. And, yeah, he was a steal, too. He was a third-round draft pick. And we come around, and he's a top, he's going to be a top defenseman, I think. A lot of people put him next to, Chris Pronger. He's not as mean as Chris Pronger was, but he's lanky. He can get around. He's got a long reach, and he's been great.
Now, a question there, when the Blues moved Kevin Shattenkirk, near the deadline to Washington, and Shattenkirk was, free agent to be, so we knew that was happening. And obviously the Mike Yeo stuff had happened recent around that time too, I believe. But it's like when he left, the team also really took off. Is there anything behind that in terms of his defensive game? Because I haven't seen him a ton. We know offensively, he could do some great things from the back end. But then you always hear things about, but in his own zone he has issues. Are those issues to the extent where now the Rangers might regret this signing as they gave him this 4-year deal July 1st, where they'll go, man, we like what he brings, but, man, there's too much negative? Or is that overblown a little bit, you think?
We'll see. I think a lot of it was from him. I know in the offseason last year, Doug Armstrong said that he went to him and was like, hey, we want to, re-sign you. But his big thing was he wanted to be a top pairing defenseman, and the Blues did not see him there at all. They saw him as a power play specialist, second pair, because his defensive ability just isn't there. But maybe, playing for his hometown team, the Rangers, he picks it up. And, last year with it going to the Capitals, I mean, it's got to be hard changing teams at the deadline. Right. I mean, you've been with the team for so long, and then you go to this brand new team, and everybody's expecting you to be this, spark to bring the cup home. And it's got to be tough. So I don't really take too much stock in what he did in Washington. So I think he'll have a good run in New York.
Oh yeah. I mean, from the offensive standpoint, and if he has it cleaned up, and we'll see who he plays with, his partner over there at New York. But it'll be interesting to see because that was that one deal. I mean, luckily there's not too much downfall potentially because it's only 4 years, so it's not like they gave him 6 years. So if he does struggle, and if he doesn't struggle and does well, I mean, you get a good 4 years, and then, the Rangers, as long as they always have cap room, will have the ability. Plus, like you said, he's from there, grew up a Ranger fan. So, yeah, maybe that extra motivation. And, but it'd be interesting to see because he's one of those guys. I know they had that deal worked out with Tampa Bay for Jonathan Drouin, and then he wasn't willing, to sign an extension at the time, which was sort of understood because I think all along everyone knew he wanted to go to the Rangers. But it'll be interesting to see how he does. And, the rest of the offseason coming up, now we're in that slow time where you don't hear a lot, little things. But do you think the Blues have anything else up their sleeve, Doug Armstrong, maybe adding another piece, or do you think it's just kind of status quo and just kind of, get training camp going, see how the season goes, first 15, 20 games, and then maybe go from there?
There's a little bit of talk about doing something, especially since Patrick Berglund got injured in the off-season training, so he's out until November, December time frame. But I think they're not going to do anything. I think their big thing is getting Colton Parayko signed.
Yeah.
And after that, I don't think anything else is going to happen. Doug Armstrong said he wanted to keep a little bit of buffer room just in case for injuries during the season, and they want to get they have a good farm team or a good prospect pool, and they want to get some of those guys up playing. So I think you'll see some of those guys come up, and they have they really don't have too much room, maybe a right winger, but there was talk of maybe Yager or someone like that, or Doan or something that we could pick him up. But I just don't think that fits into the plan right now. They want to get younger and faster. That's what they keep saying, younger and faster. So I think they're done for now.
Yeah, no, and they have kind of that area when you have those young guys coming up. We're seeing all the success from Pittsburgh. Obviously you have your established stars and veterans, but they've been able to bring these guys up, and they just jump right in, and the speed game, and now with the Blues, I mean, that would be big. And the Western Conference is just extremely tough.
Right, and this offseason, you look at Dallas, wow, they made a whole lot of moves. Nashville made big moves. I was like, I kept looking, I see Nashville, like, where are they getting all this cap space from? They got all these great players. But
what do you think, though, about with Ken Hitchcock going back to Dallas? Because obviously many years you saw him there, and a good coach, but obviously at the end of it, do you feel it will be, when Hitchcock was originally in Dallas, how he really taught Mike Modano that full, two-way game, but still allowed creativity? Or do you see it as something where with now, he'll help Sagan and Ben with that, or almost take that creativity away where, they'll be better defensively, but all of a sudden their top offensive guys maybe won't put up the numbers they should. How do you see that shaking out?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I know in the beginning when Ken Hitchcock came to the Blues, there was a huge spark and we played real well. So I expect Dallas to be like a really good team this year. As far as the defensive, that was always the big thing on him. Everyone said that he was real strict, and people didn't let him, or the players weren't let to do what they be creative, like you said. So I think that maybe the firing kind of maybe was a wake up call. So maybe he will kind of change his ways a little bit, but we'll see. He's been around for a long time.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned how the Blues want to get younger and faster. They want to keep this game moving, fast, score goals, and be all over the ice. So the team finished their prospect camp last week. They had 26 guys out there. How excited are you for these young prospects to see what they could potentially do for the St. Louis Blues?
I'm real excited. I mean, you got Tage Thompson coming in. He came into the AHL last year, and he played not very many games at the end of the season after his college was over, and he didn't have that great a time, so I think he needs another year. Then we have Jordan Kyrou. He's still in the in juniors, or I think he's going to come to the AHL this year, but he had a great year there. And then we're talking about Klim Costa. I mean, this guy's coming out of nowhere. He's only 18 years old, but he is adamant that he is not going to play juniors. He is going to play either in the NHL or maybe the AHL. That's kind of what I said. But, so, yeah, I'm excited for it. We'll see. I mean, a couple years ago, Robbie Fabry came out of nowhere. I mean, everyone was like, okay, he'll be in the AHL this year. I think he had to go back to his junior team, actually, and he just had an amazing camp, and even Ken Hitchcock was like, yeah, this guy has
we got to bring him up.
He was fantastic. So I think that was the same year that Colton Parayko and Joel Edmondson came in, too. So it was like, where did this guy come from, But so, yeah, I'm real excited about the prospects.
Yeah, and that's a big thing. I mean, the farm system and just kind of doing it on the fly, how the Blues have been such a competitive team for a number of years, but still having that farm system and those prospects and drafting well because, sometimes you see that where teams, when you don't have the top 5, top 10 pick every year,
right?
Those teams that struggle have a chance to, get those jewels or whatever, as you say, but the good drafting teams, and we saw Detroit do it for many years, but with St. Louis now doing that, I mean, it's huge because you stay good, but you don't have to worry about, tearing everything down and start, a rebuild or anything.
Right.
Although that is a argument point among some Blues fans is they're saying, well, we didn't win the Cup. We've been good enough, but we didn't win the Cup because we never tanked. We never got that. We did a little bit in the early 2000s, and we had first number 1 overall pick, and we took Eric Johnson.
Yeah.
And, I think we could have had Taves that year, and so it's kind of like,
And it happens. You never know, because
exactly.
I remember that draft, though. Everyone was big on Johnson, but it was a good draft in the top 5, 6 guys, because I know Kessel, I think, was that draft, and as you said, Taves, and I think Jordan Stahl may have been in there, which, he's had a nice career. He's not, a star really right now, but
it could be worse.
Happens.
It could be Neil Yakupov.
Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah, and now, he had that time there last year with the Blues, and now he goes to Colorado. We'll see if he could somehow
I think that was a good team for him to go to, especially a team.
Get ice time.
Yeah, right, exactly. Because he didn't really get very much ice time with the Blues. I mean, he did, and he would show some signs of brilliance where you're like, this guy has the best hands I've ever seen. And then he just the whole game just wasn't there, I guess. But
that's been the thing with him. Now, from little I've seen of him, I didn't see any games last year with him in a Blues uniform, but in the past with the Oilers, I thought he worked hard and everything, and I know that's something that you see on him a little bit or hear about where, hey, maybe, not the hardest working guy, things like that, but he seemed to be a guy that did work hard. Now, with the Blues, did you see the effort there?
I did.
Okay, yeah.
I thought he played. I thought he definitely looked like he was trying very hard.
And that's
maybe, coaches see things that people don't, and maybe they just didn't like the fit.
Yeah, it could be that. Maybe the hockey IQ isn't quite there for him. But yeah, I agree with you. With Colorado, it's one of those, low risk, potential real high reward things, and get that ice time there, and because he does work hard, if he could show off that skill, you never know what could happen. And but Colorado obviously has their issues. It'll be interesting to see if they ever move Matt Duchene, if Joe Sakic ever does anything there, really.
Yeah, that's a weird situation going on. That kind of feels like the same thing that happened last year with Doug Armstrong and Kevin Shattenkirk. Everyone's like, he's going to move in the draft. It has to happen. And then it didn't happen, and everyone's like, what's going on?
When's it going to happen? Yeah, but that Central Division, though, other than Colorado, and Colorado still has some talent, it's just they just have issues. But everyone else, I mean, Winnipeg, now that they have Steve Mason in net, if he could play the way he's capable of, maybe they got their goaltending solved. So there's a lot to like there moving forward. But the Central is such a tough division, really.
Right.
And then the Pacific is pretty good. So the West in general, as of right now, obviously a lot of time to go in the offseason. Things will still happen. Young guys could surprise, make the team, not just with the Blues but other teams. But you see the Blues, with adding Braden Shen and sort of other than that saying status quo, but that's probably a good thing because with Mike Yeo, what he's done. Do you see them back in the playoffs next year again,
yes.
and a top 3 in the division or wild card, or how do you see that?
I definitely see them in the top 3 in division. I think Chicago has taken a step back.
Yeah.
So I think Dallas, Nashville, and St. Louis up there
will be the top 3 there.
in the Central.
That's interesting. Yeah, I think that could be how it goes. Chicago, I think, losing Chalmerson, he's one of the most underrated defensemen, I think, in the league, and there's going to be that point where I think that will come out. So I agree, yeah, Chicago taking that step back. And Jake Allen, we saw, I think he had among starters, while Hitchcock was there last year, the worst save percentage, I believe. Then he had the top once Mike Yo took over. Is it just the system, or do you think it was mentally?
Mental. I think most goalies, everything's mental. And I think he also had a kid in there, so I think he was tired all the time from that.
Oh, it's got to be tough, the all-nighters there.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, Andrew, thank you so much for joining us. It was great talking St. Louis Blues. And what's the Facebook page again where, other Blues fans that are listening, could...
It's St. Louis Blues Fans of Arizona. Pretty easy. Just get on there, hit join, and I'll add you to the group. And we're planning on doing a trip to Las Vegas for their first game in Vegas. It's October 21st. So,
nice.
And I'm sure we'll have a meetup before that. So I'm pretty excited.
That'll be fun.
Yeah,
that'll be great.
I think everybody is going to do that. That was a big thing with Vegas. I was like, man, they're definitely going to get plenty of people just from that.
Yes,
just from people being like, hey, my team's going to be in Vegas. What?
Vegas we
go.
Yeah,
exactly. Oh, what do you know? I'll be in Vegas too.
Yeah. A beautiful arena up there as well. I was there a couple weeks ago for the NHL awards, and what they've done is amazing. And so that is going to be great to have Vegas in the league right now. But we're at a break right now. We're going to talk a little baseball when we come back, and then at 2 o'clock, of course, Dave will join us from South Dakota. We'll talk some Rattlers, Mike Smallwood here, and a lot of the Rattler Booster Club, so we'll have some fun with that. This is Real Hockey Talk, broadcasting from Frasher Smokehouse, 3222 East Indian School Road here in Phoenix. NBC Sports Radio AM 1060. We'll be right back.
The NFL season never stops, so stay up to date with Pro Football Talk Live with Mike Florio. Weekday mornings on NBC Sports Radio AM 1060.
And welcome back. Real Hockey Talk / Breakthrough Sports here. Broadcasting from Frasher Smokehouse, 3222 East Indian School Road. Special thanks to Andrew. Come on, talk St. Louis Blues. A lot of fun, with the Blues. Braden Shen joining the team, and a lot of good stuff to happen there coming up. So pretty exciting. We're going to venture away from hockey, though. We'll talk some baseball and the Diamondbacks.
As we've got some fabulous food sitting in front of us.
Yes,
Craig.
Thank you, Stace. Look at all this good stuff.
Yeah.
You got the burn ends here. You got, brisket, I think?
Brisket. What did I get? Brisket, turkey, and chicken.
Oh, man. Yeah. I'm salivating.
Can't wait.
I'm ready to roll on it.
Yeah, buddy.
All right, let's take a 30-minute break. But, the D-backs in general, obviously a terrific season. It's been amazing. And, they had the tough series in L.A. And, Rodney blowing Game 3, they had a chance maybe to get one win there. But, didn't happen. Stuff like that happens. But bouncing right back. Zach Greinke, this is what you need your ace to do, and
exactly.
He did. And talk a little bit about Greinke. I mean, what he's done. He had that rough year last year, maybe some injuries kind of doing it. But he's kind of back to where he was before.
Yeah, it's tough when you sign a big contract like that, and there's so many things expected of you when you sign a deal like that, and you're in the public eye like that, and you're supposed to come in and be the face of the organization because they're paying you a lot of money, and you're the number one starter on the Arizona Diamondbacks. So, he had to go through his growing pains with the team, but Greg, it's clearly paying off now because he's 11-4, 9-0 at home. Had a great outing last night, 7 scoreless innings, and he helped the Diamondbacks get off that 3-game losing skid, like you said, against the Dodgers with a tough win over Cincinnati last night.
Oh yeah, and that's amazing. Yeah, because when you have that tough series like that, and then especially how the third game went, it's tough. A team could kind of dwell on that, but they didn't. And Greinke, obviously, as you said, did his thing, and the team in general, the offense was there really waking up and taking care of business. So,
And that's the great thing about a long season as it is. You know, you're going to have games like you had on Thursday night when you blow a four run lead in the ninth inning. That stuff happens. Right. You know, it's not all going to be perfect over 162 games. You're going to have stretches like that. But the thing about this team is everybody believes in each other. It truly is a family organization. Everybody loves, cares, and respects each other. Otherwise, you wouldn't bounce back like you did last night.
Oh, yeah. I think just everything with, you know, getting the new manager and then GM, just a bunch of new stuff happening over the offseason. It's like a new atmosphere in that clubhouse.
Yeah, new attitude, new everything.
And it's been great. And, you know, the Taijuan Walker trade, fantastic. I mean, think of this guy. Seattle for years, you know, teams tried to get him when he's a prospect as the centerpiece of deals, maybe to get a superstar. That didn't happen. He had a pretty decent year even last year with Seattle, and you just knew, man, he still has that great stuff, still a very young guy. And Seattle really liked Gene Segura, who did have a phenomenal year last year.
Yes, he
did.
There's
no doubt about that. But the D-backs, it was such a great trade at the time. You're thinking, oh, wow. And it's really showing why it's a great trade for the D-backs.
Yeah, I mean, Taijuan Walker, 6-3, 3.30 ERA, 68 strikeouts. Very good deal.
Yeah, they didn't have this last year with anyone. And now with Greinke bouncing back, with Walker doing his thing, Robbie Ray now living up to that potential.
An all-star.
Oh, man, what a year. I mean, he just strikes out everyone. He goes up there. You know, and if he can cut down those walks, you're even going to see more amazingness. And so now that pitching staff, which just was tremendously terrible last year, is now such a huge strength. And the depth there, you know, maybe you get another reliever because maybe some of Rodney struggles, things like that. But, man, oh, man, I mean, just amazing how it's been able to turn around so quickly.
Yeah, and you mentioned the possibility of maybe putting Archie Bradley as the closer. That was an idea you threw out.
Yeah, if I were them, and I'm assuming more have maybe talked about it, is maybe giving that a shot and then maybe acquire another reliever, another setup guy. Or you could get another closer and have Bradley set up. But we've seen now with a guy like Archie Bradley with great stuff, how he's done in his role, you know, when he pitches 1-2 innings, how great he's been versus, you know, with being a starter. Sometimes, you know, you don't throw – let's say your guy that could throw your 98 miles per hour. As a reliever, you can consistently just do that. Sometimes as a starter – maybe you tire out a little bit. And so maybe you tone it down, or if you are throwing 98, maybe by a third or fourth inning, you're like, oh, okay, my arm is tired.
I'm totally gassed, yeah.
We were talking out there a little bit about, you know, Eric Gagne, who, you know, coming up as a Dodger, as a starter, had all this potential. And that was sort of the situation with him. And then they moved into the bullpen as their closer, and we saw, you know, arguably the most dominant couple years as a closer ever. I mean, it turned out he juiced it up a bit, but still, because knowing he's only going that 1-2 innings, he just leaves it all out there with his great stuff. In Bradley, we've seen that, but now maybe you put him in that closer's role. Who knows what could happen? But, you know, it's and that's the one worry with Rodney I had when they signed him is that good stuff still, you know, even getting up there in age from a baseball standpoint, but we saw he had a great first half with San Diego last year, and then he totally just...
Yeah, he just tailed off.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's how it seems like his career, at least the last few years, has been, where you'll see some greatness, and then, you know, and maybe we'll see that from coming up. We'll see what they do. Maybe it's something already talked about. Maybe it's something we'll see coming out here as we head into the All-Star break already with the D-backs just being phenomenal. You know, they're in, who would have thought, you know, the NL West, at least with the top three teams, probably the best division, at least in the National League.
Right.
In that regard. Obviously, the Giants are having, you know, a terrible year, and the Padres, as expected, kind of in their rebuild, not doing much.
Yeah,
but
Colorado just hanging around in there. They're 8.5 back.
Yeah.
They've had their struggles lately, but they're hanging in there.
They have. And one thing is, because the Dodgers and D-backs have been fairly consistent here these last couple months, is that, you know, if one team had any sort of little, you know, losing streak or, you know, like a 15-game streak where maybe you lose 9 or 10 out of 15, which usually wouldn't kill a team in a season, but in this case, it has in terms of the divisional race. Now, the Rockies, I still believe, are have that second wild card spot right now, and it just shows how great the division has been. That in any other division in the NL, even Colorado would be in first place, or with Washington in the East, they'd be tied for first.
Yep.
And the D-backs, of course, would be in first in any other division. But it shows how dominant, LA's been this year. And I got to say, watching all these years, growing up a Dodger guy and everything, even though I was only 3 when they won the World Series, Kirk Gibson, 88, this is the best team I've ever seen them throw out there overall. When you look at, they got the stars, but the depth is unbelievable. And Turner Ward's done a great job kind of helping resurrect Yasiel Puig.
Yes.
And even though they've had a ton of injuries, Alex Wood, just phenomenal this year. It's a team. This is definitely the best I've ever seen them. And, it'd be a disappointment if they didn't finally have that playoff success. But this is also maybe the best overall D-back team I've seen. Maybe even better than overall when you look at, like, the World Series team. Obviously, you had that two-headed monster with Johnson and Schilling. But the overall, the depth, it's not a good farm system right now in the organization, but a lot of the guys at the MLB level are, still young guys. And
yes.
What are your thoughts when you look back, since they've been in existence? Where would you put this D-back team when you look at the roster and some of the potential? A Robbie Ray who's only getting better, and already what we've seen from him in the first half this year. Would you put this team among the best we've seen with the D-back teams, or do you think still maybe more to be seen before you put them up?
Obviously, we're only 87 games through the season, so there's a lot of more baseball to happen. But you're 19 games over 500. You're 5.5 games out. You are the number one wild card team right now. So I would definitely put this Diamondbacks team among some of the best we've seen recently. This incredible job they've done. They're so solid at home, just like the Dodgers are. That's the key to winning. You've got to win a great majority of your games at home, which they have 33-13. They're 20-21 on the road. They'll work that out. But they're still 40 more games on the road. But that stuff will be worked out. But pitching, defense, offense, they're among the best in all of those categories.
Oh, yeah.
And defensively, they've always been one of the better organizations in all of Major League Baseball. But now, like you said, Greinke's healthy. Everybody's stepping up. We need Rodney to be more consistent on a nightly basis. We can't have too many of those Thursday night flubs like we had the other night in Los Angeles, even though I know you were happy about that.
I was ecstatic.
I know you were.
Yay, Rodney's in. No.
But this is a team that can compete with anybody. They can hit the cover off the ball. They can pitch the ball. And they play great defense. So with all those pieces, they can stay in contention. They just can't get too much further behind the Dodgers. That 3-game series, that was a crusher for them.
Oh, yeah.
Because they came in thinking, okay, we're only 2.5 games out. If we can get 2 out of 3, hopefully sweep them. That'd be hard to sweep them at Dodger Stadium. But to lose all 3 of them, that was a crusher. But, again, to come back last night and get a win against Cincinnati, and hopefully they can get a win tonight and a win on Sunday, roll into the All-Star break on a 3-game winning streak, who knows?
Yeah. Well, no, absolutely. And, in Cincinnati – obviously, they're in last in the Central. Not a very good team. However, they were playing pretty decent baseball here over their last 10. So, to get the mental toughness right back into it is big.
And that's a team that struggled on the road. They're 14-29. They're decent at home, 23-20, about 500, but they struggle on the road.
And, but it's a game you need to win, and they did it. And, the thing is, when you look at it, the wild card standpoint, now, I don't think they'll catch the Dodgers. I think the Dodgers... there's plenty of time left. Don't get me wrong, and they still play them, of course.
But barring a major collapse.
Yeah, I just think the way the Dodgers are now, I think it'll be very difficult. Now, I'll say this, though. Obviously, you want to win your division, and then you have the wild card game if you don't, if you make it, one of those 2 wild card teams. And obviously, it's tough because you could have a great year, and then all of a sudden, just that one game
and you're out.
Doesn't go right.
Right.
As of now, they would be playing Colorado in that wild card game, and it's quite interesting, and that would be here, because they're that first wild card spot now. They're 3 games up on the Rockies. But when you look at the other divisions in the NL, the next closest in terms of a second-place team that would be a wild card team now, Chicago at 43-43, so they're still Chicago would be still quite a bit back of Colorado per se.
Yes.
In terms of maybe catching them to get the second wild card spot, because if Chicago gets that, you really don't want to play them. No offense to Colorado, who's an amazing team.
Right, but you don't want to play the world champs.
Yeah, once they catch fire, you would think Chicago at some point,
they
would catch fire in the second half.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, is there enough time for them? To make a big run there? I think they're maybe 6.5 back out of that second wild card spot. Yeah, and there is definitely enough time.
Sure, there is.
But it's interesting looking at everything there, because right now, I don't see Atlanta making any sort of move. So really, this wild card race, maybe Chicago, and Chicago could win that division.
They're only four
games
back. Right.
And so then you throw Milwaukee into that picture of maybe a wild card team, but. Right now, unless there's an epic collapse by the D-backs or the Rockies, there's a very good chance that this is how we see it finish. And maybe Chicago catches Milwaukee, who's closer to them. Mm-hmm. But wild card-wise, it's, and Colorado had that struggle, but now they're picking it back up again. And, so it's interesting to see this, that already despite kind of, to me, improved parity in Major League Baseball, but what we're seeing, though, this year in the National League, you have your three dominant NL West teams and the Washington Nationals, but no one else has really taken step. You have Milwaukee, who's a big surprise.
Yes, very surprising.
And they have said that, they don't want to ruin kind of the rebuild and move young guys, but they're interested in Sonny Gray if he's out there.
Okay.
And they have the pieces.
And I think having a 49-41 record, that's a good piece for them too if they want to get Sonny Gray.
Oh yeah.
Obviously he wants to go to a contender or a team that's going to win a division championship. He doesn't want to go to a team where he knows, like Shane Doan or any of the other NHL free agents. These these older guys, they don't want to go to a team they know they can't win in.
Oh yeah.
They have no chance of winning a division title or the playoffs.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and if they pick up a guy like that, again, Milwaukee, and I think they got to be realistic, and the GM knows this, that we're playing above our heads where we thought we'd be now.
Which is not a bad thing.
Exactly. And you want to win.
Yes.
You don't want to go away from the long-term picture. But a guy like Sonny Gray, who's still a young guy, and he's finally getting back to that level he was at.
Yes.
He had struggled last year, and then earlier this year he was fine, but not that big-time guy that he had been before. But he's finally kind of getting back to those last couple starts, and we'll see. But, yeah, Milwaukee's been that surprise. But, yeah, I'm just curious, when Chicago will really break out of it, and if they will. They still have that team that could do it. And but for right now, the D-backs especially are in a nice spot because, the first spot that's not a playoff spot after them, would be Chicago, and they're 9.5 behind them. So that would take a pretty epic collapse. So at the very least, the D-backs look on target to get a wild card spot. And again, the nervousness for a fan that, you just have that one game. You could throw Greinke out there. Things could look good, but anything could happen on any given night. So that's the one scary part, I guess, from a fan perspective. But
it is cool, though. It is cool to have that NL wild card playing game for the playoffs. That's awesome.
I love it.
I agree with you. It would be great if they caught the Dodgers. I know it wouldn't be great for you. You would hurt for years.
Oh yeah.
If the Dodgers collapsed off of what you said is one of their greatest teams.
I think so.
They are one. It is one of their greatest teams
in my lifetime. Yeah, since being born in '85, I'm getting up there, and it's the maybe the years of Koufax, Drysdale before my time, but from what I've seen, I've never seen such complete Dodger team. When you look at they offensively, they have power. Maybe they use a little more speed per se, but they have that ability. Guys that could draw walks, hit for average. Justin Turner, what we've seen, amazing. And the youth in there with Seager, Bellinger, Peterson, guys like that.
Local kid, Bellinger.
Oh yeah, just amazing. And the pitching staff, what we've seen, and their trade deadline time, they have a great farm system still. So if they're willing to, they can move some guys. If they need another starter, need another reliever, they can get it. Now that's the one thing with the D-backs. They don't have that great farm system anymore. It's probably lower half of the league. If they do want to make an upgrade, though, maybe a top-notch reliever, or if they did see a starter out there they like, Do you think there's anyone on the MLB roster, maybe someone that they may go, you know what, we have depth at this position, we might have to move them to solve a strength? Or do you see the D-backs maybe staying status quo, maybe adding a few little pieces because they don't have those big-time trade assets?
Yeah, I just kind of see them kind of staying put, kind of looking at what they have internally, and they'll evaluate what they have. I mean, what they have right now is working fine so far.
Yeah. Oh, it has.
So
yeah.
If it's not broke, what does that say? If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
You got to be careful because we see that.
If it does come broken, then they do need to fix it.
Yeah, that's very true. And, we have a couple weeks left until the non-waiver deadline. And then, of course, in August, clear waivers. You still see some trades. But, yeah.
And then also, I'm sure they're going to watch what the Dodgers do.
Yeah.
They're going to watch what L.A. does. They're going to watch what Colorado does.
Mm-hmm.
And if their competition are making moves, then they're going to have to do some corresponding moves.
Oh, yeah.
Because they can't stay put. They can't just stay pat when other teams around them are making moves to make themselves better.
And that's very true. And there's so much that comes into play there. And, as you said, if it's not broke, the fixing – And that's the thing there is we do also see teams sometimes go overboard at the trade deadline, and the insiders and analysts will say, "Man, this team amazing," but then you see them go downhill
because they tinkered with it too much.
Mm-hmm. And so you want to kind of keep that chemistry in order. And so it may be a good thing that the D-backs don't have a lot of minor league assets. They can move for a big-time rental or a guy under contract that's a legit player that can really help them because maybe it would tinker in the wrong way, perhaps.
Exactly.
So, there's a lot of ways to look at it, but, I know even with the Dodgers, all their young guys, they're always reluctant to do that, and it's paid off to this point, not moving Bellinger or Seager or Peterson, anything like that, but they still have some terrific guys in the minors that, if they think there's that piece that won't disrupt chemistry, they do have that ability. And maybe Colorado does as well. So we'll see. I mean, it's going to be a lot of fun to see. But I'm just curious on if the Cubs in the second half will finally break out of it there.
I would not be surprised if they did.
I would think, just regardless of anything. And if you look at the AL, the Houston Astros, with the Dodgers, of course, in the NL West, they both, the best record in baseball, 59-29 with Houston. Leading the AL West and the American League.
Boy, they are just running right through teams.
Oh, it's
they
amazing.
ran right through Toronto last night like it was nothing.
Oh, it's crazy what they've been able to do. Yeah, and that division basically wrapped up their 16-game lead over the Angels and Rangers.
And what's so impressive about Houston, you look at their record against their division, they're 30-12 against their own division. And even more impressive is their road record. Look at that, 32-11.
It's just amazing.
On the road.
What they're able to do there on the road is
goodness.
outstanding. And it's just dominant in general, all year basically. And
yes.
So you look at that, I mean, they've got their thing going right now where, they'll win that division. Now, you don't want to get complacent. You want to still, really get up for games. But they've got that. The Central, sort of like with the NL Central, I mean, this is better per se that you do have 3 teams over 500.
Mm-hmm.
But, Kansas City's been really hot. They did lose last night.
Yeah, they lost to your Dodgers.
Yeah, that's going to happen this year. But, but we've seen that significant improvement. And then Minnesota has surprised me.
Yes.
I didn't think they'd be this good. Now, Cleveland doesn't have a great record, but that's a really good team. And maybe they're a team that really takes off.
They're a World Series team.
Absolutely. And so that division now, the Tigers and White Sox. White Sox are where they're expected. Tigers, I'm curious to see, will they trade, J.D. Martinez at the deadline, rental? Will they finally move Verlander perhaps, get some young guys?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Tigers could be that team kind of to watch there. And then now with the East, again, another kind of parity-filled in the top 3 teams, I guess. With the Red Sox, they're kind of taking some charge. But, the Yankees and Rays, I mean, they're still within striking distance of them, and both teams in striking distance kind of that second wild card spot. So there's more of a race there in the American League.
It is. And what disappoints me is Toronto and Baltimore. I thought those teams would be much better than where they are right now.
Yeah.
Toronto's 5 games under 500. Baltimore's in last place, 6 games under 500. I just thought those teams would be much better and more competitive than what they are right now.
With Toronto, maybe another team to watch. Would they be willing, and I know this was kind of brought up a little bit, but more of speculation, would they be willing to kind of put Josh Donaldson's name out there and see what they could get for him?
Mm-hmm.
Because obviously a lot of teams would jump in on him.
Sure. Especially if they know they're out of the race.
Mm-hmm.
They've got to dump some salaries and
retool. Because not just for this year, but you know that the Yankees are only getting better with their young guys. The Red Sox are going to be this good for a while.
Yep.
And
Tampa's going to get better.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, even though Tampa has to always move guys with salary, they do a good job of developing their pitchers.
Exactly.
In Baltimore, they could get back to it. We'll see. But, with Toronto, I mean, you don't want to be stuck kind of in that lull where, you keep these guys next year, struggle again. But maybe you can get some pieces, 3 or 4 good young prospects for a guy like that. Maybe a name to watch here in the next couple weeks as the trade deadline comes closer. So AL definitely is more exciting in terms of races right now. In terms of wild card, there's still a lot. Even the Angels and Rangers, Mariners, they're still in the picture for a wild card spot. Look, Oakland, who's 38 and 49 on the year, 11 games under 500, last place in the NL. In the AL West.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They're only a lot of teams will leapfrog 7.5 out of the second.
Just like the White Sox,
spot.
they're 7.5 out,
and it's amazing. It's same with exactly. And then Baltimore being last in the AL East,
they're
only
5 games out, right?
A lot of teams but if let's say they get abnormally hot, it's not the. It just shows. I mean, that parity is there. Maybe not great parity in terms of they're not very good teams, but. Everyone's close. So a far difference between the leagues this year, I think, in that regard. And I hope it comes down to the wire there in the AL. I think it's always fun when you have races to end the year. And in the NL, we may not see as much of that. Probably not, per se.
Because we know there's, 3 we've got Washington, L.A., and Arizona, possibly Colorado. We'll see what happens with Milwaukee. Yeah. Like you said, do the Cubs make a run? Do they catch fire at the right time?
That's the only
which they might.
That would be the big division race there potentially. Yes. Yeah, Dodgers 5.5 up, so that's still possible. Arizona, but that second wild card spot even right now, that 6.5 game lead. If you look at the AL, you have 4, 5, 6, I mean, basically like 9 teams closer than that to the second wild card spot.
Yes.
That's crazy.
It is.
It's amazing.
KC's a half game out. Tampa's 1 out. Angels in Texas 3 out. Yeah. Seattle's 4 out. Toronto's 4.5 out. So, like you said, they're not too far behind.
It's amazing.
If they get hot and somebody else gets cold, they can make a run.
Anything could happen. They leapfrog those teams, but it's been a lot of fun, talking, of course, with Real Hockey Talk, adding some baseball in this last half hour.
But you know what time it's for? It's Rattler time.
Absolutely. The Rattlers.
United Bowl time.
Very exciting. That game will start about 3:05, but for the last hour, of course, we'll have Dave calling in at 2 when we come back from the break. And, of course, some former Rattler players will be here. And Mike Smallwood, involved with the Rattlers, of course, the Booster Club. He's going to be joining us, so we're really looking forward to that. This is Real Hockey Talk / Breakthrough Sports, NBC Sports Radio AM 1060. We're broadcasting from Frasher Smokehouse, 3222 East Indian School Road. We'll be right back.
NBC Sports Radio AM 1060 KDUS Tempe Phoenix and KSLX HD2 Scottsdale Phoenix.
And welcome back. Time for Breakthrough Sports here on NBC Sports Radio AM 1060, broadcasting from Frasher Smokehouse, 3222 East Indian School Road here in Phoenix. And, of course, Arizona Rattlers, the United Bowl coming up here in just about an hour. So we have Mike Smallwood with us, of course, charge of the Rattlers official booster club, and Ed Cole still in the house. We got some former players and I know Dave is expected to join us from South Dakota. Not sure if he's there with us yet, but should be here momentarily. And he may also have a Dave is ready.
Dave is here.
Dave, could you come in? Are you alone, or do you have the IFL commissioner with you? A little special
We're looking
surprise.
for him right now. It's a madhouse over here. They're expecting about 10,000, and we're trying to track him down. Definitely said he'd be on, so we could talk a little bit about the game until he hopefully arrives.
Okay, perfect. Now I'm going to hand you over to Ed and Mike, and then we got some former players that should join us here shortly, so we could do a nice preview of it there. And now, Dave, when you do find Mr. Commissioner, if he joins you, I would say if you guys were on speaker and it doesn't sound quite up to par, maybe just one at a time. Take turns. All right, perfect. Okay, that would be perfect.
So you're going to hand me over to Ed and Mike.
I'm handing you over to Ed. You're a little heavy to pick up, but we got it. I've done some working out.
So, Dave, just set the scene for us where you are in South Dakota. You are at the arena getting ready for this United Bowl Championship. Such a huge game with Arizona and Sioux Falls, two storied organizations. Obviously, we know Arizona coming over from the Arena Football League, their first year in the IFL. They are in the United Bowl. They're taking on the six-time defending champion Sioux Falls Storm. Just set the scene for us and what you see in the arena as we get ready for kickoff in an hour.
Well, right now I'm watching a bar and a bartender, but I'm up high in the press area, lounge area, and we're it's a much anticipated game. They're calling it the Clash of the Champions, and it's made, of course, front page here at their major newspaper called Argus Leader. Not sure what it means, but it must mean something. South Dakota, the largest city. Sioux Falls, the largest city in South Dakota. Clash of the Titans made front page on the paper and front page, of course, on the sports section. The battle for indoor supremacy. You know, what's interesting, they're looking at it as an AFL team versus an IFL team. And, of course, as you know, Ed and Mike, the rules are completely different. The IFL is more like the outdoor game, a mixture of running and passing, unlike the AFL is almost all passing. No blitzing in the AFL. So they're looking at it that way, at least the Storm is. But we're looking at it as all rookie teams from the AFL, called the Arizona Rattlers, coming in their first year to take on the six-time defending champs. And it's a lot of buzz out here in South Dakota.
Mike, as the official president of the Rattlers Booster Club here, how exciting is this to see this team in their first season, as daunting a task as it was for them to come to a brand new league, pretty much rebuild the team to fit this league, for them to have this run that they have, and now they're taking on a juggernaut in Sioux Falls, and they're trying to dethrone them in their own building.
16 rookies, I believe, that's on the team. It's extremely exciting. There's part of us are surprised in the way that they made it so far, but then on the other hand, with the coaching staff and the organization, it's not too surprising that the Rattlers have done as well as they have. Coach Guy said at the beginning of this, at the picnic before the season started, he said, "Do not pay attention to how we start. Pay attention to how we finish." Of course, they're not finished yet, but it's they're on the right track right now.
Yeah, it would be great to finish with a championship here, right? They started off 0-2, 4-4. Then they made the run.
Exactly.
What, 9 straight? Now they're 13-4. Now
they're looking for that 10th one.
Yes, the 10th one would be the sweetest, wouldn't it?
Oh yeah. I mean, at the beginning of the season, we were here watching the first game. I mean, I think the Rattlers had the lead for about 2/3, if not 3/4 of the game, and then there was just a couple of costly turnovers late in the fourth quarter because they were on the verge of blowing them out. There was a pick six, but anyway. We all were looking at each other saying, this is the best that the IFL has to offer. I mean, we were just saying we were all disappointed that we didn't get to play them again in the regular season here. They were just saying the only possibility for that to happen is the championship, and here we are.
Dave, you were at the media day yesterday over at the arena. Just what went down yesterday? What was some of the vibes that you got yesterday when you went around? You talked to the owners, you talked to some of the players for Arizona and Sioux Falls. What was the vibe like yesterday, and what did you take away from yesterday's event?
Well, here's what I took away. I mean, we saw them, of course, a lot of the players, and of course, former player Nick Davila had a little talk with him, and Alan Chapman, Artise Brown, some of the players there. But the press conference was really fascinating. I've been to many AFL press conferences, but I got to tell you, there was a special buzz in this press conference. It was much fuller than it's ever been from an AFL point of view. You could just almost cut the tension with a knife. Very respectful. I asked maybe 5 or 6 questions each side, but I almost asked this question because it was heavy energy, but also very calm at the same time. I almost said, "Hey, guys, if you were an MMA team, what type of trash talk would you be talking now?" Because we didn't have that. There was no trash talk at all. Very, very calm. And it looks like the Rattlers are extremely calm coming into this game. And Kevin, when I saw him coming in yesterday, Thursday, when I saw him Thursday, he was incredibly calm. He was in shorts. He was up late, and he just said, "Hey, we're going to have a bunch of fun." And I think that is the strategy to keep his players loose. Where it seems to me the Storm look a little more tense. I think they're worried. You think that's sort of weird, being 6-time defending champs. But guess what? They have, the Rattlers' 9-game winning streak, and they are really here to play. They're worried about the physical presence, I believe, the Storm is, of the Arizona Rattlers.
And, David, always comes down to preparation. And we know the Rattlers prepare almost as good as any organization in this sport or any other sport, any other professional sport. This team prepares like no other. So as long as you take care of your business before you get on that plane and head to Sioux Falls, then the confidence will be high. If you don't prepare, then the confidence won't be high, and you won't see it this afternoon.
Well, there's no doubt about it. I asked the question to Kevin and to Coach Riggs at the Storm. I said, "Hey, this is it. There's nothing more you can do. You're prepared. Any tricks up your sleeve are already implemented and ready to go. The only thing left is the psychological mental advantage, and how you're going to do that." And it was an interesting answer. He said, "Well," Kevin said, "well, I listened to the Curtis Riggs show." He has his own radio show the other day. And he could tell there was some psychological warfare going on right then. And then Coach Riggs said, "Well, Kevin called me and said, 'What's the attire for the press conference?' And Coach Riggs said to Kevin, 'A tuxedo.'" And, of course, Kevin didn't fall for it, but he was hoping he'd come in a tuxedo. So I thought that was sort of funny. Both coaches, good sense of humor. And it was very exciting. We were downtown last night in Sioux Falls, and the place was buzzing for many reasons. They have various events there, but everyone knows about the Storm, and that might be a little different in a big city like Phoenix, where not everyone is as familiar with Arizona Rattlers. I bet many people may not know they're even in the championship series, but the Storm, with only 185,000 population in Sioux Falls, there's a good percentage that really knows their Storm, and it's probably the only thing going for them as far as a professional sports organization.
And, Mike, this is an outstanding team they're going against. The Rattlers are. They've got to face a guy in Lorenzo Brown. This guy is, what more can you say about him? He can beat you with his arms, his legs. Look at what he did against Iowa a few weeks ago. This guy can do it all. So defensively, they're going to have a tough haul on their hands trying to stop this young man.
Justin Shirk wasn't on the team at the time, if I'm not mistaken, our star linebacker. That's one thing to deal with. The other thing is that makes me feel pretty good about going into this game is Drew Powell, who was for the Nebraska Danger, who they were playing. He was a very hot quarterback. I mean, he was big, he was strong, he was fast and everything. And I think that dealing with Drew Powell, the way they shut him down last week, was almost a dress rehearsal for what they were coming up against, as far as the Storm's quarterback. So, the guy's smaller and faster. He's more skilled and everything else. But, I think that was the way they handled Drew Powell 2 weeks ago in in the intense conference championship. I think that that's I look at it almost like a dress rehearsal for them as far as dealing with the Storm's quarterback today.
And Mike and Dave, I see the key word being pressure. They've got to be able to pressure Lorenzo Brown and eliminate his targets as much as possible. We know it's going to be hard in their building, but it's something that they have to do. And Dave, you'll see it as soon as those fans start filing in. That place will be as loud as all get out. So they've got to be able to keep that crowd under control and keep the pressure on Sioux Falls all afternoon.
Well, I think exactly that's right, and I think Kevin definitely has his game plan. In fact, when the coaches were asked, what will be the key to who wins this game, it appears they're evenly matched. Both had 6 on each team, all IFL, players that made all IFL, and you could hear some cheers in the background going on. Probably the Storm came out, and then you can hear. Yeah, it's quite a madhouse if you can still hear me, but what's happening is both coaches agree the team with the fewest turnovers and the least amount of penalties will win this game. And of course, the Storm has led the league in creating turnovers this year. Their last game, I believe, against Iowa, they had 0 penalties. It's an incredibly disciplined team, the Storm is. And that's certainly why Kevin Guy wants to keep his group loose. He says, this is just another game. He's trying to keep it in perspective so no one gets tense and get out of control. But it's quite fans are pouring in right now. They're going to get probably 10, 11,000 here.
That is so awesome.
The Rattlers are used to playing in front of, even though it's a crowd that's for them and that knows the game and all that, but they're used to playing in front of. They played in front of average of 12,000, almost 13,000 fans this year. Mm-hmm. So it's not. It's going to be a factor, but it's not going to be. If there's any a team that's equipped for the noise and all that stuff for a big crowd, the Arizona Rattlers are more prepared than any other team in the league.
And Mike and Dave, we know how good they are on the road. Yes, they lost that first game in Sioux Falls, but after that they won their last 7 road games. So this team knows how to go on the road and win. They're professional. They know how to do this. This is what they were built for. This is what they play for. They play for a championship, whether it's on the road, whether it's here. This is what they do.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And, of course, it's interesting. The Arizona Rattlers in the AFL for 24 years. That's quite a feat in itself, and winning I think it was 5 championships, but they phenomenal team, as everyone knows about the Arizona Rattlers. And the commissioner yesterday, and we're still looking for him, said this has really helped the league by having the story Arizona Rattlers and their magical history in on the IFL. I think it boosted the stock up tremendously, and to finally may end the domination of the Storm, because it's not fun for the league, I think, when you have one team winning 6 years in a row. And so now they're going to be tested. It's going to be quite amazing. So I'm hoping we get a lot of the Phoenicians out there watching the game. How's it turn out, by the way, at Frasher Smokehouse?
Everybody's not here yet. All the people who said that they're going to be here. I know we do have Calvin Sexsnyder here. Shakes is here. He's ready. He's standing by. He's eating some Frasher.
Yeah, Shakes is eating over there, getting his grub on. Yeah.
So Splint Fleming. So they're doing some reminiscing and everything else in the court. They'll be with us in a few minutes. Some people are still trickling in on Frasers. We're not as busy as we are yet. Making some adjustments and all, because since it's not going to be on the TV, it's not going to be on Fox. It's going to be on YouTube.
On YouTube, right?
So we're making some adjustments for that.
Dave, as far as the media contingent there, what's it like? I know we're still about 45 minutes away from kickoff, but what's the media vibe like? Is there a good little contingent around you, or what's going on there?
Yeah, the Storm it's a great organization, by the way, the Storm, and they have a bunch of media. Where I'm sitting to my right, I scooted out of there to the lounge area to get a little bit of reception. But they're going to have, I believe, it may be. I think the Arizona Rattlers may have this on a live broadcast too. And I'm not sure that. I'm trying to confirm that. But YouTube is what you want to watch for sure. But yeah, their media people are cool, real nice. The league's media people are really nice. It's a really up and coming league, I think, and I wouldn't be surprised if you see maybe one or two other AFL teams jump over. I don't have any first-hand information, but I wouldn't be surprised maybe the Philadelphia Soul, perhaps. I think Jacksonville tried to last year, but they did not get accepted. This league is a league full of integrity. They want to do it right. I talked to the director of officiating, and he's got experience in college as well as NFL. So they really are looking for great, great character people, great character teams, and this league, I think, will about to expand in the future.
Yeah, I was going to say that, Dave. Having two storied franchises, like we said, Arizona and Sioux Falls, going up in their biggest game of the year, this has got to bode so well for the Indoor Football League to have these two franchises do battle for a championship.
Yeah, it's true, and the commissioner kept going over that, and it made his job a little bit easier, too, because you pull off a magical team, get them in your league like the Arizona Rattlers, that was a no-brainer. But it did show when they did reject some other teams, they're serious. They want the proper type of organization, the type of organization that will promote not only themselves but the league to make it successful, do what it takes. And, of course, I talked to Ron Scherz, not just the press conference, but alone, off-site press conference. And, he's just the perfect owner. This guy will give his whole organization what it needs to succeed. You hear that about the great organizations. They will have available what they need to succeed. And he's never wavered on that at all. And here he is again in another championship. And I could tell Ron is pumped up. This is the most pumped up I think I've seen him. He wants this victory. But he did say yesterday I asked him this question back, and I said, going back a year ago or so, when you made the decision to jump leagues from the AFL to the IFL, and going forward to now, a day before the championship game, this was yesterday, what are your thoughts? And he said, I feel vindicated, meaning he didn't know how it turned out. I mean, he knew they had a great organization, but now they're in the championship. I feel vindicated. That's what he said. So there's a relief there, but there's also a pressure. He wants to win. But also, I said, do I dare ask you the question, how you will feel tomorrow? And he said, well, I'll feel vindicated no matter what happens. But I could tell he wants this game badly. And I'm sure both sides do. There's pressure and incentive for both sides to win today.
Of course, you come in your first season in the Indoor Football League, like you said, you've got to make so many concessions, and you've got to make changes, and you've got to make additions, subtractions to this organization. But for the plain fact that they started off 0-2, fight their way back to 4-4. Now they've won 9 in a row. Now they are at the pinnacle of what could be, a United Bowl championship in their first season. That's just astounding what the Arizona Rattlers could do this afternoon in a few hours.
I do believe that the Sioux Falls, they want to win this one right now because they're thinking the Rattlers are here to stay. And I think they want to get one more before the Rattlers actually get themselves established and all that stuff. I really feel that they're thinking this might be their last opportunity before the Rattlers just dominate the league in the IFL.
Yeah, I'm sure they look at that like that, Mike. Like they know the pedigree that the Arizona Rattlers have, and they know, well, if we can get this championship today, that's 7 in a row. Who knows what the future holds, but at least we know for this year we're on top. We're better than the Arizona Rattlers. We are the best team in the Indoor Football League, and we did it in our building that Dave's in.
Well, let me interject here. My feel, and I appreciate what certainly what Mike you just said, but here's my sense of it being here in South Dakota is that I don't think they're looking at it from the point of view, this is their last chance or this is their best chance, before the Rattlers get established. They want to show that the IFL is better than AFL. This is their focus. And, they want to win to say, I don't care what type of league, what type of team, as magical and short as the Arizona Rattlers are, we want to win to prove that it wasn't a fluke 6 years in a row against good competition. We can beat any league, any team in any league. And I think that's their first focus. Coach Ray is quite a great coach. They're similar to Kevin Guy. And I think they're very, very positive and think they will dominate even the next fixture.
Well, I think I still think that there's a lot of fear of them in the future. I think that, but you're not wrong. But I just think that they realize that they got some serious competition from here on out.
Yes.
And I think that they want to have it'll look good on their resume to say, hey, we took the Rattlers out at least one time in the championship.
Yeah,
and I think Coach Guy has a different attitude than that. It's just like, no, we're coming in and we're taking over this league in your house.
Yeah, well, definitely Coach Guy is feeling that way. He feels the same way pretty much, is that I don't think he's looking at it as an AFL-IFL matchup, but he's looking at it as rookie team coming in as all rookies in this league. And the first year
16.
knocking off the big giants of all time in the IFL. So that's what makes it so intriguing, and that's why it's called Clash of the Champions. You got two championship-type teams. They've never really had that in IFL, although Spokane did play last year, but they lost. So Spokane lost in their first year against the Storm. So there's a lot of storylines here, a lot of anticipation, more so than any time I've seen a championship in indoor football. And this is the place to be. You guys should fly out here immediately. Oh, it's going to be too late. It's like a 5-hour flight. But it is
Dave,
exciting.
Dave, talk about the importance of Arizona getting up early and often on Sioux Falls, because we saw what they did against Nebraska a few weeks. They got up 41-14, and then they just completely just took over. They just kind of ran right past them after that, and they just kept the pedal to the metal. They kept it left lane hammer down. That's what they have to do against Sioux Falls today. They need to be able to hopefully get the knockout blow early on and take them out.
Well, yeah. There's no doubt any team certainly wants to get up early and force the other team maybe to change their game plan downstream sometimes. Although in the first game, Arizona was leading in the fourth quarter. It was the first game of the season against the Storm.
Two late turnovers.
Pardon the pun, but the Storm stormed back and won that game. So I think it's very important to get the lead and keep your the pedal down and gassed up, because the Storm can come back with so many different weapons anytime. It's got to, as Kevin always said, it's got to be a four-quarter game. You cannot let up one bit, especially in this championship game. This is too good of a team, and this will be just a remarkable game. I'm really excited to see this, and I'm sure you guys are too, right? You're going to be seeing it right after the broadcast.
Oh, absolutely. Not missing that for the world. We have to figure out a way technically to make it happen, being that it's on YouTube. I guess we can stream it on our phones, right, Mike, or something like that?
Oh, yeah. It gets streamed on the phones. But, they're getting it all set up and everything. It'll be all ready to go.
Oh, sure, absolutely.
I see everybody's looking for a close game. I think that I'm seeing Rattlers by 15. I really do. I really think the Rattlers by 15.
That would be great. Well, fellas, let's go to a break. We got to pay some bills. Mike Smallwood, the president of the official Arizona Rattlers Booster Club. Dave Isaacs out in San Diego, South Dakota.
Sioux Falls, South Dakota.
So many SD. Sioux Falls, South Dakota for the United Bowl. Arizona Rattlers and the Sioux Falls Storm. This is NBC Sports Radio AM 1060. We will be back shortly.
Hey, this is Andy Dorff. Check out my show, Dorff on Sports, from 9 to 11 a.m. Monday through Friday, right here in the Valley of the Sun on NBC Sports Radio AM 1060.
Thank you.
Oh, my goodness. We are half an hour away from the United Bowl in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. The Arizona Rattlers will take on the Sioux Falls Storm, the reigning six-time United Bowl champions. Boy, that's going to be a tough task. But we know the Arizona Rattlers can do it. Ed Cole here. This is Breakthrough Sports. Here with the president of the official booster club for the Arizona Rattlers, Mike Smallwood. Mike, we've got some guests here. You want to introduce them?
Well, actually,
okay.
Actually, Ed, can you still hear me? Ed.
Oh, that's right. Dave's in South Dakota, and he has the very special guest, Dave.
Yeah, we got him breakthrough news here. Of course, we have the commissioner of the IFL joining us right now, Michael Althouse. Hey, Michael, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Well, you're more than welcome, and we'll go a few minutes here, and then you guys can interview the former Rattler players. But Michael, how exciting is this to see the Clash of the Champions, as it's called, the two powerhouse teams? What does this do for the IFL, do you think?
Yeah, it's great. It started with the press conference yesterday, and you could really feel it in the air that this was different. This wasn't your average championship game in the Indoor Football League, Arena Football League, any league on a 50-yard field. There was a buzz in the atmosphere. There was an excitement, and it's really carried over tonight. And we're expecting a sellout crowd here in Sioux Falls, and really expecting nothing less than just a great Indoor Football League game that hopefully comes down to the wire.
Yeah, there's no doubt, and I really enjoyed that press conference. It was very different than an AFL press conference in that you guys really had it, I thought, very well organized, but it was, more importantly, there was, like you said, a buzz in the air. The anticipation is outrageous right now. It's almost like a heavyweight title fight, and is that how you see it too?
Yeah, I think the two best teams in our league this year earned their way to play in this game. And I think without a question, throughout the course of our 16-game season, the Sioux Falls Storm and the Arizona Rattlers proved to be the best this year. And I was actually here for the first game of the season. First game for the Rattlers in the IFL was right here in Sioux Falls, South Dakota against the Storm. The Rattlers had them on the ropes in their first game and came down to the wire. A lot has changed. Both of these teams have changed over the course of the season, like all teams do. But I really think the one constant force has been the great coaching that both of these teams absolutely have. You talk about Curtis Riggs with the Storm. They're six-time defending champions here in our league. And then Kevin Guy with the Rattlers. His reputation precedes himself. So really expecting nothing less than just great action, great fun for all the fans, and hopefully a great game to propel us into the offseason.
And, Michael, this has the bold well. Go ahead, Dave. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, I saw the trophy, the championship. I don't know if you call it a trophy, but it looks to me like a resemblance of the Stanley Cup. It's really nicely done. Who designed that? Do you know?
That was actually before my time, so I'm not even going to take credit for designing the trophy. But you're right; it does have very similar traits to what that of the Stanley Cup does. All of our team champions from the past years are on there. All the team names of all the players, coaches, etc. Just is something that was very, very important for us to honor our history and our tradition, making sure everybody's name gets on that trophy at the end of the year.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And just another question or two, and then we'll let the guys get back to Frasher Smokehouse in a viewing party in Arizona. But what does this mean to you personally as a commissioner? I mean, is this sort of a dream come true? Because this could be the stepping step of further expansion or different type of teams modeling after the Storm and the Rattlers, who are both great organizations.
Well, imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, and obviously these two organizations have been around for a long time and know what they're doing. The Rattlers in 25 years, the Sioux Falls Storm in nearly 20 years of operation. So that is definitely a good lead to follow with both of these organizations, and I'm very proud and humbled to serve as commissioner and to see how our league has grown under my guidance over the last 4 years. And it makes you proud. It makes you proud when you see a full house here tonight. You see two great historic teams battling it out for the championship of your league. And it's really something special that we're building, and very much looking forward to guiding this league in the future as well.
Yeah, well, I think you guys have a great future, and in about 20 minutes, we're going to see who in the future will actually go home with the trophy tonight, and it's going to be very exciting. And Michael Althouse, thank you so much for joining us. We're going to have you on the show again and talk sort of a season recap. So really appreciate you being on. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys. Enjoy the game.
Kudos, Mike. Thank you, Michael.
Ed and Mike, that's Michael Althouse, a great commissioner out here. I'm glad he had to join us. Now, I'll be signing off. You guys interview, have fun with the former Rattlers. Say hi to them for me, and we'll talk soon.
Enjoy the game, Dave.
Thank you, Dave.
Thanks, Dave.
Have fun today.
Hey, thank you very much.
That's Dave Isaac in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. He is on site for the United Bowl, which is, I'm sure that place is getting full. Mike, now you can introduce our special guests.
All right, I have two former teammates, two former Arizona Rattlers. Both have rings, especially together in the 1998 team. Correct?
97.
97. I'm sorry. So we have Clint Fleming and Calvin Shakes. I can never
Shakes.
Snyder.
Will anybody ever get that name right on the first one?
Yeah, no kidding. As long as I know I still can't get his name straight. Yeah.
Gentlemen, we are, 25 minutes away from the United Bowl. How exciting are you guys, being Rattlers alumni, how excited are you to see this team take the field against a juggernaut in Sioux Falls, hopefully get their first championship in their very first year in the IFL? This is exciting.
Oh, most definitely. I mean, like they said, these are two heavyweights going at it. And the fact that you're having a former AFL and then you have the IFL coming together, I would love to be in that banquet yesterday because I know some tension flying around.
Yeah, you guys have been through a few of those banquets, right?
Reminiscent of the old Super Bowl, the World Football League and the NFL. Coming together.
Yeah, and you pitting guys. This league versus this league, but now the IFL has made a good stance on bringing teams in and doing a good job of putting a good product out there. And just like I was talking to Flynn, I mean, they have stability right now, and they have some momentum, and this game is really going to be a test of different styles.
Yeah, it's a clash of the Titans, and the leagues are trying to find themselves. The Arena League obviously has gone through a little bit of a shrinking. Kelvin and I were talking about how many different teams we played on or for and against, and the list is long, and our memories are short. But the IFL with the potential sellout crowd and the momentum going in the right way, obviously I think the Arena Football League is going to have to follow suit, and they're going to have to get some momentum, or who knows, maybe some of these different 50-yard fields will have to combine and make more of a one powerhouse league, or maybe two leagues, and they can face off against each other as a Super Bowl, so to speak, of the indoor game, the 50-yard indoor war.
Yeah, I would be for that.
Yeah, I know you would be, wouldn't you?
Definitely.
So you guys have been in the locker room like 20 minutes before a championship game. Just take us through what's going through the minds of the coaches and the players right now as they're minutes away from getting this thing started. What's going on right now?
Al, I was lucky enough to be a part of 6 Arena Bowls. For me, game day was pretty relaxed. Kelvin and I were joking around talking about our pregame meal that we had here at Frasher's, and we did the 4-meat combo, so we had our pregame meal.
I got my 3 meat here, right?
But, you're about to get the grub on.
Yeah, buddy.
But for me personally, being a lineman and kind of an H-back, I was a supportive role. Kelvin was the star, all the rattles and everything. But I'd like to get in the locker room early after eating, take a hot shower, loosen up, do a little bit of stretching. But all the hay's in the barn, these coaches have got the players prepared and everything, and so there's not a lot of stress or anything. Now it's time to go out and just kind of hone your craft and show it for the fans. So the hay's in the barn. They're probably all pretty relaxed and everything. There might be some butterflies with some players, but most of us, and I can attest Kelvin is the pinnacle of that, they like the butterflies. They like the stress, and that's what makes it exciting.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't an early bird like Flint. I was like one of the last ones in the locker room when it comes to that now. But, I mean, preparation is the key to any championship. And, you know, during our seasons and during our years that we played, and, you know, Danny would always stress, you know, do the little things, do those things right now, you know, during the week. So when the game came, it would be easy. And I was all for that. I mean, I had prepared, and I know Flint said it before. We prepared all week, you know, or whatever given time, you know, for the games or for the championship games. If you do what you're supposed to do, the game is going to be easy. You just got to minimize the mistakes when it comes. But I would sit back and, you know, put some headphones on and, hey, let's go. When it's time to go, let's go. There's no turning back. You can't go out there and flop.
Yeah, there is no tomorrow after today, right?
This is the championship game.
Yes.
You don't go out there and lay a dud, you know, or some kind of excuse like, oh, I can't go. No. This is the championship game. There is no tomorrow.
Yeah, 97, we played against Kurt Warner and for the championship, and Kelvin took his headset off, and I think one of the first or second place of the game, it was a mistake. We had a fill-in quarterback. Cedric Bonner was nursing a compound fracture of his leg, so he wasn't able to go for us. So Donnie Davis steps in, and he called the wrong formation. We didn't click, but on the first play of the game, I think Kelvin took a screen pass and took it to the house for a touchdown and got called back. But fortunate enough, we were able to put 55 points on the board before the game was over. But I'm telling you, this guy's faster than a small-town rumor, which is important in Iowa because there's a lot of small towns.
Yes.
And he was ready before the week of preparation started. So this guy right here, I mean, he's a star among stars, and it was just a pleasure to open a hole for him, to watch him shoot through it like a lightning bolt.
I mean, having the stability of Kevin Guy and all the Rattlers, the ownership and everybody in the front office to guide them through what had to have been a tumultuous time, switching one league to another. Yeah. And now they are at what could be their very first championship. I mean, like you said, you guys know. You've been in the organization. You know how strong it is. There's no cracks in this organization, and that's why they're successful each and every year, and that's why they are where they are today.
Well, you're right. And you know, when it comes to Arizona Rattlers, and just here in Phoenix, the team is going to be a well-prepared team. The fans are always loyal. Those two things have always been a part of this team championship and this team movement. That's why every year the Rattlers are in there as far as the focus or contending for the championship. Fans are always out there loyal. No matter where we go, you will see Rattler fans, and they're loud and proud. And when you have that type of combination, you know, you're always going to put a good product out there.
Yeah, and Kevin Guy, he's a consummate professional. He was a teammate of mine down in Orlando, and we had a lot of laughs and everything, but it's evident even back then he was a player coach, very smart, and he sees things before they happen, so he's able to kind of fix things before they become problems. Calvin's right, though. It's the fans, you know, Mike here and the Rattler Booster Club, and you know,
we could always able to say that we had the best fans in arena football, indoor football, and now we actually have the not just the Booster Club. I'm just talking about the fan base at all. Now we have documentation because with the award, I mean, it's on a plaque now.
Oh yeah,
officially on the plaque, saying best fans 2017. You know, where of course, you know, when you're averaging 12,000 fans a game.
And you got 15,000 for the intense conference championship.
Right, and it would have been more than that if the game was here. It would have been more than that.
I'm glad to hear it's official, but Kelvin and I knew that a long time ago. Thank you, Mike.
Exactly. And I want to say, to piggyback on that note of Kevin Guy, he's going to have his guys prepared because that's the type of coach he is. He's straightforward. He's not going to, he's going to shoot from the hip, and he's going to tell you when you're wrong and when you're right. And you got to respect that. You know, he's hard-nosed. He wants his guys focused, and he's focused. That intensity that he brings, hey, you go out there and lay it out on the line.
Shakes Flint, how important is that when things go wrong? Because we know it's not going to be perfect today. Things are going to go wrong. Players are going to go wrong. Things are not going to go all the way that it's scripted out to be. But how important is it having being for the guys to look at Coach Guy, and he's just, okay, guys, we know what we're doing. Let's regroup. Let's get this thing back together because we know what we're doing.
Well, I was going to say, when situations come like that, this is why Danny brought in Flint, because Flint was a veteran of the league, and we were more like, okay, our first, second year, yeah, we had some success in our first year. My first year in '94 and won the championship, but guys like that were like, man, don't get down. This is a marathon. Let's go. Let's pick it up. And we have respect for the coaching staff and for Coach White and the coach guys and all that, and also the veteran players who would say, hey, man, let's go. And who would tell you to your face and say, hey, man, you need to focus on this, man. Let's go.
Yeah, Coach White passed out a book. Had a chance to coach with him in 2006 with the expansion Utah Blaze, but he came from the Tom Lander camp, and he wanted an even keel, and he didn't want that roller coaster of emotions. You get a turnover, you get this, and so he was the epitome of just kind of a even keel and everything. I was more of a camp of I enjoy roller coasters, so if we score a touchdown, I want to be happy, and if they score a touchdown, I want to be a little bit upset. But those two aren't at odds with one another. There's some positives in both of them, and of course, yeah, there's going to be turnovers, and I think that's the number one factor. You can talk about offense, defense, or special teams. Those are the three main factors in football. But the thing, the ball is not round. I mean, Mike was talking about basketball and Harden and what he's done with his contract. But football, it's oblong, so that ball bounces funny. Sometimes it goes your way, sometimes it doesn't.
Right.
And so there's ebbs and flows within the game.
The Arena Bowl last year was the start of the Arena Bowl last year was an example of that.
Yes.
21-0. The first 3-4 minutes of the game.
Yep. Before it even got started, really.
Yeah. Back in the '90s, I played in the Miracle Minute where Barry Wagner scored, I think, 3 touchdowns in a matter of seconds, and I think I had my shoulder pads off and was counting it as a win before it was over. So you can't do that in the arena game.
No, you can't.
I heard there was a statement that was said, I think Mark Slayer said it on ESPN, saying that the first team who realizes it's just a game is the team that's going to win the championship. What do you guys believe in that? Does that make sense?
Well, that sounds like an ex-player turned commentator.
That's why I asked.
I will say this: making 6 Arena Bowl appearances, winning 3. The ring is the thing, And Kelvin and I were talking about the '97 season, and I talk about the '92 season in Orlando. Don't really talk about those years. I think it was '91 or '93 when Jay Gruden threw the ball through his ears and different things. My point is that unfortunately one team is going to take that Stanley Cup replica trophy with the white gloves home, and I think it's coming back to Phoenix this evening. But one team does have to go back to the drawing board, and if you lose, it's a tough loss because there is no second place.
Nope.
What did Ricky Bobby say in the movie? If you're not first, you're last.
You're last, right. Yeah, you're right. Nobody cares for the runner-up.
Yeah, and nobody remembers that.
Nope.
So, to just say it's just a game, I'm not – I am going to say in some respects that, yeah, it's a game, but it's not just a game. I don't look at it like that. If I go out there and lay my body on the line, I want to know that this guy, and these guys are out here doing the same thing. I want, I want you to play with passion and emotion, and focus. Not reckless abandonment, but you're focused on what you're doing. You have that goal in mind. That goal that we had, finish what we started.
Right.
Okay, finish it. That's what it's all about. And every team comes up with these goals every year.
Football is one of the greatest sports. Where can you take on, in the arena game 8-on-8, but in the outdoor game 11-on-11, you take 11 guys or 8 guys tonight from different backgrounds, different races, different upbringings. They come together in a huddle. They have a plan. They break that huddle to execute the plan, and they count on one another to execute that plan.
To do your job.
How great is that?
Yeah. And it is the ultimate, And some guys do their job, and then some guys will do a little extra. This guy right here always did a little extra.
Yeah, Shakes always did the extra.
Oh, yeah.
I'm thankful, man. I'm very thankful to have people around me who wouldn't, who would ask me about myself and, you know, and the things that I want in life and, you know, push myself as far as goals. And, you know, just, you know, when you have players like that, when you have coaches like that, you know, Danny Whites and the coach guys and, you know, who really care about you, you know, the Flint Flemings, the Hunky Coopers, Cedric
Bonner, yes.
Randy
know,
Gatewood.
Randy
Oh, my God, I'm going to cry.
You know, all those guys, I mean, they had a presence of, you know, championship attitude. You know, and it wasn't just football; it was life.
It's life, yeah.
You know, and that's what it is. Sports, football, for us has taught us a lot about life and how we look at it.
Yeah.
You know, how we come together. Me and Flint, two different guys, man, but we can go and hang out, and you know, we're brothers.
Finish each other's sentences.
Yeah.
You know, we know what each
We're
other
brothers.
are thinking about. Yeah.
Through thick and through thin, we're always going to be there for one another. And that's how it is on the field. So it's not just a game.
You come together as players, you execute it as teammates, but you leave the locker room as leaders in the community and better men. Better fathers, better husbands, leaders in the community, better men.
Even though the guys are in South Dakota, I know they feel this love in this building and all over the state of Arizona because they know that this entire state is pulling for them. When you go on the road and you've got challenges like that, do you feel that? Do you feel the love coming from Arizona from these fans that love you dearly and give everything for you and root nothing but the best for you? Do you feel that?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you definitely feel the support and everything from your family, from the fans. But as an athlete, and Vince Lombardi will attest to this, and the famous quote that's on most guys' office walls, you know, about winning. And there's a certain type of athlete who enjoys the grind. He enjoys going into a hostile environment. It doesn't matter if the fans are cheering against you. They're cheering. Doesn't matter. You can convert that into positive energy, and it's a blast. And unfortunately, these guys today might not understand the totality of what is in front of them, and maybe that's the blessing of being an athlete. They're just looking at today as a game, but they'll remember this for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, they will. And I would say that they really appreciate that because these guys, our fans come out, you know, in numbers and you know, whether they're family, whether they're friends, you know, whether they're events that you meet, I mean, you appreciate them for coming out and being a part of something special. And along the ways you make friendships that are, you know, that will last a lifetime, more so than the game that you've played, you know, in the years that you've played. This goes beyond that, especially with the Rattler family. This goes beyond football. And, you know, that's why I support Mike. And I come out there, you know, anytime he asks me, you know, to any of these events, you know, to come out there because I gave what I gave on the football field. The fans were there and they supported us.
Shake. Keep talking.
They supported us. They supported us, and you know, it was just, you know, it's just a great relationship, man. Great relationship.
It's fun. I mean, it's always nice to have the former players come into our events and things like that. Because I mean, they're showing their appreciation towards the club, all the fans and everything else. We had a group. I wasn't there personally. I was at work, but I mean, we had a group of about at least 10 people who were at the airport seeing them off to the airport. And there's even some videos of them when he checked into the hotel. There's some of our Rattler fans that were there
in South Dakota.
In South Dakota
Nice.
yesterday.
Yeah.
There's videos and all, and so we have they're represented everywhere. You know, so I mean it's funny. Rattler fans. I mean we try to take care of our people and all. We had a nice food drive at the beginning of our toiletry drive, or actually we called it a welcome package, and we plan to do that again. And it was very successful because we got a lot of stuff for the players when they first moved in, and it was. But we plan to do a lot more stuff next year, and you know it's nice having some players like Flint and Shed Bonner. I mean, I get him and Cedric Bonner mixed up. But I mean, I talked to Cedric last year, and he said he's willing to help me out as far as the Rattlers alum as much as he possibly can. But I mean, we're going to continue to do that as long as. As long as the opportunities present themselves.
That is so awesome. Gentlemen, we've got 90 seconds left, about 7 minutes until kickoff. What are your keys to victory today? What do the Rattlers have to do to bring that Stanley Cup replica trophy home today.
Bend but don't break. Score 7, not 3, and make sure they get on all loose balls. And they should bring that trophy home.
I say play with passion, man. I mean, play hard, play through the whistle. I mean, stay focused. This is a game of runs. Momentum is going to come and it's going to go. So, stay focused.
And that will bring a championship home. Mike Smallwood, thank you so much.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Calvin Schexnayder, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me,
Fleming,
sir.
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, Greg, yeah. Come on down here to Frasher's Smokehouse, 32nd Street, Indian School for the Rattlers party. We got the TV here. We're going to watch the game. Greg, I took the show over. You haven't talked for an hour.
I appreciated it. I appreciate everyone coming out. Great fun, good stuff, and I enjoyed the food as always.
Hard to talk with brisket in your mouth.
Of course, I'm going to put some brisket in my mouth right now. Dave Isaacs in South Dakota. He'll give you great coverage for Breakthrough Sports. Guys, thank you so much.
All right,
and
man.
we
Let's
are
go
rooting on
Rattlers.
the championship for the Rattlers.
Yeah, most definitely.
All right.
Go Rattlers.
For NBC Sports Radio, this is Breakthrough Sports, Ed Cole. Thank you guys for tuning in, and go Rattlers.